Hey everyone, welcome back to Kits and Manhwa. Today we are recapping a story. Let's get started. A vortex of dark, malevolent energy swirled from the stormy sky, crashing down upon a treacherous mountain range. The violent, black and red stream of resentful energy roared into the depths of a dark cave. There, in the center of the mountain cavern, suspended by heavy iron chains, was a man with a shattered body, his flesh mangled and bloodied. A mysterious dark entity coalesced from the swirling resentful energy, its bone-chilling voice echoing. "Hello, young master of the lowering sword pavilion." Yuamo writhed in heart-piercing agony, letting out desperate and muffled roars. The stream of resentful energy mocked his futile efforts with cruel amusement. "Oh, my, you don't need to. Force yourself to make a sound. I have been watching you ever since they tore out your tongue. Although it was not a pleasant sight to behold, I can hear the voice of your heart perfectly." The protagonist's desperate thoughts echoed, as he could no longer speak. Who is it? I can't see anything." The entity reminded him. "Have you forgotten? Those eyes of yours, once filled with profound wisdom, were gouged out with red-hot iron rods. And that's not all. Your jade-like hands, which had never known a day of hard labor. Your graceful legs, which had only ever strolled through royal gardens. While you drifted between consciousness and delirium from the pain, they severed them, piece by piece." The protagonist slowly pieced together his shattered memories. "I think I'm starting to remember. How could I ever forget why I ended up in this state?" The crimson energy jeered at his memory lapse. Well, you must have been too preoccupied with being tortured. Come to think of it, it has been quite a while since you were brought here." Yuan thought silently. "Does it know what has become of my clan?" The dark entity, seeming to read his mind, roared. "To think that someone who only cared for his own pain would suddenly ask about his clan. Your clan has been completely massacred. Just think about it. Think about everything you have lost. The annihilation of your family. You, more than anyone, understand the price of losing your family, don't you? Your eldest sister was beaten to death by her own husband, a man who no longer wanted any connection to a fallen clan. Your second sister, a talented swordswoman, had her died after the clan's collapse, and was brutally violated by a band of mountain bandits before she died." Yuan desperately tore at his chains, his mind screaming in fierce denial. I didn't know any of this. But the clan, we still had outstanding disciples and peerless martial arts masters." The dark entity loomed over him, crushing his foolish self-deception. "You truly didn't know? After you, the young master of the clan, left the family to marry into another house. You truly didn't know that your fellow disciples butchered one another just to seize the vacant position of clan head? While you buried your head in books, you truly couldn't see something so obvious." He thought desperately. "I really didn't know. I swear, how could a mere mortal like me have foreseen this?" The dark entity roared, repeating his words with fury. "A mere mortal? How utterly ridiculous. At only 4. You helped your mother compile hundreds of medical texts into 25 great volumes. At 5, you petitioned the emperor to enact new farming methods. At 6, you observed the celestial phenomena, predicted the great drought, and saved tens of thousands from famine. Without you, Zizhan and Changking would have been nothing more than a common historian and a simple strategist. Do you remember now?" The protagonist bowed his head in heavy silence, finally comprehending his dark destiny as an image of himself, sword in hand, standing atop a mountain of corpses, flashed in his mind. "The truth is, I knew everything. I didn't miss a single detail. I was born with a fate that invites bloodshed. If I were to involve myself in the affairs of the martial world, countless people would die because of me." The dark entity cackled madly. "Ha ha ha. Huh. You still don't understand? Everyone around you is already dead. That fate of yours has run its course. And so, I had no choice but to entrust everything to the will of heaven. As the ancients say, the net of heaven is vast. Though its mesh is wide, nothing escapes it. If I did not act, the wicked would surely be judged by the laws of karma, as decreed by heavenly will." Suddenly, a demonic hand tore through the ground, its voice majestic and wrathful. "Foolish. Do you still not understand?" The demonic hand seized the protagonist's neck, lifting his head. "Do you truly believe that this heavenly will cares for weak and fragile mortals? If you truly believe in karma, then let me show you an old tale. From a time of steadfast belief that all crimes would one day face just punishment. However, the wicked continued to do evil deeds, lived their entire lives in splendor and wealth, and died in peace. Meanwhile, the vast majority of those who did good were exploited, oppressed, and suffered until they perished long before their time, regardless of good or evil. For men who dare to seek any karma beneath this cruel illusion, what truth exists other than the indifference of heaven and earth? In the end, there is no such thing as fair judgment. The entity spoke. Do you want power? In that moment, the protagonist clearly declared his decision. His final decision amidst the black void. I do. The entity swirled closer. Do you want to reverse it all and save everyone? Yuan roared in his heart, affirming his desire. I do. The entity continued. Even if the price is your soul being damned for all eternity, with no hope of reincarnation? With resolute determination. I do. I will seize that power. I will grasp that chance, mobilizing all the abilities I've been granted. I will take hold of their fates. The dark entity pulsed violently, merging with his chaotic energy. Now, you can face your true self. We will grant you power. We will give you a chance. Thick, sentient shadows violently wrapped around Yuan Wo's body. He gritted his teeth, enduring a mixture of extreme pain and wild ecstasy as the dark magic pumped directly into his veins. The dark key commanded him as his body was renewed. Now, open your eyes. Who is it that looks upon me? This true scripture is bound with the skin of the one who cursed humanity, written in the blood of the one who cursed the heavenly Tao, and stitched with the sinews of the one who cursed the great earth. Though what you and we seek are different, our path is one. Make a blood pact with us, and we shall grant you another chance. Yuan Wo completely embraced the darkness, his face obscured by the forming shadows. I accept. I entrust my soul to you. The dark key signaled his rebirth as a pillar of crimson resentful energy erupted from his body, shaking the very foundations of the cave. Oh, bearer of a heavenly fate. The name of this true scripture is the scripture of annihilating darkness and shattering heaven, a replacement for the indifferent karma of the heavenly Tao. It is a heaven-defying scripture that will devour all the evils of this world. Do you wish to judge the wicked and deliver their due punishment? Do you wish to reverse it all and save everyone? With my determination and our power, it shall all become reality. We shall grant you a chance at rebirth. From now on, you will become one with the darkness. Go, wield the sword of judgment from the shadows and become the dark sovereign who will judge all karma in this world. Light shone in the pavilion of enlightenment, part of the lowering sword pavilion. Inside that luxurious building, the protagonist lay motionless in bed. His eyes suddenly flew open, wide with shock. He shot up in a panic, his chest heaving violently. He slowly scanned the familiar yet strange surroundings, taking in the dusty scrolls and ancient ceramic vases on the shelves. This place. Is this my room in the Pavilion of Enlightenment? They said they would give me another chance. Did they send me directly back to the past? It's now the second month of my 17th year, before all the tragedies began. The voice of a mater start casually rang out from outside the door. Has the young master woken up yet? I can't believe the young master of the Lowering Sword Pavilion, known as #1 clan in the Central Plains, looks like this. Well, who cares? As soon as he's up, he'll just bury his nose in a book anyway. It's so bad that people even call him the sword-less heir. So pathetic. He used to be rumored to be a genius, but look at him now. The person opposite him replied. I bet those were just baseless rumors. Yuan stood silently in his room, his expression hardening as he absorbed their blatant disrespect. The sound-priming techniques of the Sword Pavilion should be among the best in the Central Plains. And yet, I can hear the servants' voices this clearly. No, it's not just my hearing. My physical strength, my muscle power, and all 5 senses, all my physical abilities have increased dramatically. Is this the power of the scripture of annihilating darkness and shattering heaven? However, this appearance, soaked in killing intent, along with this demonic energy seeping into my very bones, isn't this the body of a demon? I can't step outside looking like this. Let's see. I should relax my eyebrows. I need to create a more human expression. More human. But what does it mean to be human? He shook off the frightening smile, letting out a soft, weary sigh. Well, isn't that a meaningless question right now? Anyway, my face finally looks a bit better. The dark energy instantly dissipated into the air. Well then, shall we begin? He walked, barefoot on the wooden floor. The protagonist flung open the wooden doors, letting sunlight flood the room. He stepped outside, breathing in the fresh morning air, closing his eyes as a gentle breeze caressed his long black hair. The two servants whispered to each other with judgmental smirks. He looks a bit strange today, doesn't he? The one beside him added. It's not like this is the first or second time. TSK. So early in the morning and he's already out of it. Yuan continued to bask in the light, completely immersed in the sensation of being alive. How cruel. It makes me forget the bone-chilling cold of the darkness. So warm. The light. A's servant flinched, his jaw dropping in shock. Huh? Soon after, a crowd of servants gathered grumbling in the courtyard. A sleepy servant yawned. Ah, I was sleeping so soundly. What the hell is going on that we're all being summoned like this? Another complained. TSK. The young master is truly in a pitiful state. I wonder what will become of the great luring sword pavilion. There's a reason they call him the swordless heir. Another stared at his master with suspicion. Good heavens. Why did he call us all here just to stand there in silence? Is he showing off just because he's the young master? Yuan stood tall on the pavilion's terrace, looking down at the chaotic crowd. Is everyone present? From this moment on, you all are no longer needed at the Pavilion of Enlightenment. A servant stammered. Huh? What do you mean by that? The protagonist was met with an outburst of panic and anger. If you dismiss us so suddenly, what are we supposed to do? I cannot accept such an unreasonable order. How are we supposed to explain this to the General Affairs Office? People will just look down on us. This is utterly ridiculous. We cannot accept this order. Young master. Yuan closed his eyes, recalling his past life of naive optimism. How foolish I once was. I believed that if I offered goodwill first, the other party would respond with kindness. And even if they didn't do so immediately, I thought that my sincerity would eventually win them over. No, I deluded myself into believing it. A dark, knowing half-smile slowly spread across his face. He raised a hand to cover half his face. The protagonist abruptly cut off his laughter, fixing his ice-cold gaze on the head steward. You, step forward, the steward replied with a trembling voice, cold sweat beading on his forehead. Yes, young master. Yuan Wo asked a simple yet loaded question. Who am I? The steward swallowed hard, trying to answer as respectfully as possible. You are the young master of the luring sword pavilion. The protagonist replied. Correct. I am Yuan Wo, the young master of this clan. If that's the case, then you people, who are committing the crime of gross disrespect toward your own young master, are you claiming to be the masters of this clan? The steward's face turned pale as he realized the gravity of the accusation. The crime of gross disrespect is judged based on its severity. But, at the very least, an our moral leg will be. The steward immediately dropped to his knees, slamming his head on the stone ground. Please spare my life. Young master. The other servants quickly followed suit. They got out Ed desperately, begging for their lives. I have a wife to support. This is absolutely not gross disrespect. The protagonist raised a finger to his lips, effortlessly silencing the panicked crowd. A satisfied smile returned to his lips as he thought. Is it always this easy? With this method, I've quickly cleaned out all the unnecessary eyes and ears. Yuan Wo spoke calmly. It is also my fault for letting you all become so undisciplined. Therefore, I will not pursue this crime any further. Now, pack your belongings and get out. The steward remained prostrated, his face pressed to the floor. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Young master. The protagonist paused, adding one final instruction. Now, go to the General Affairs Office. Directly tell the general manager to choose carefully and send a child to serve me as a scholar attendant. The deceitful servants scrambled to their feet. Your subordinate will relay the young master's command. Yuan Wo once again stretched his hand towards the brilliant sun. By the way, this is truly bizarre. The sunlight is so warm. Yet I cannot see the sun. Has even turned its back on me now? The entity appeared and said, "From now on, you will breathe in darkness, wield the sword of judgment, and punish all karma in this world. You will become the sovereign of darkness." At the same time, elsewhere, a person bowed respectfully before a hidden figure. Subordinate has an urgent matter to report. The young master has eliminated all the eyes and ears in the pavilion of enlightenment. A pair of crimson eyes pierced through the darkness, trembling with extreme rage. That useless insect. How dare he? In the General Affairs office, the general manager sat alone before a wooden desk. His face was heavy with thought. So, this day has finally come. I knew this would happen eventually. But for someone who has shown no interest in worldly affairs for 10 years to suddenly dismiss all of his servants. I still can't forget the image of him holding a sword, assuming a stance. How could it be? That footwork. Wasn't that the footwork of a sword master who has reached a profound level? After all, has the time for safe observation passed? A young maiden's voice called from outside. Grace pays her respects to the general manager. The general manager looked up from his desk and spoke. You've arrived. Grace, come closer. I have a very important matter to entrust to you. Grace obediently approached, maintaining her usual calm demeanor. Yes, sir, the general manager spoke. I cannot tell you everything, but one thing is certain: the succession situation of the Sword Pavilion will undergo a world-shaking change in the future, and the young master will undoubtedly be at the center of it. The choice is yours. Do you wish to go to the Pavilion of Enlightenment? She immediately replied. This lowly girl will obey the general manager's command. The old general manager said cheerfully. Yes, with those eyes of yours, you will be able to assess situations more quickly than anyone else, perhaps even see through the young master's hidden intentions. The magnificent exterior of the Pavilion of Enlightenment stood tall and majestic, as Grace stood before its massive gates. So this is the young master's residence, the Pavilion of Enlightenment. The general manager's face appeared in her memory as she recalled his earlier words. Grace, to judge the power of a clan, you need only look at their main gate. Grace was silently in awe of the estate's massive scale. I've heard much about its immense size, but I never imagined it would be this magnificent. A lazy guard jolted awake. Huh? Who's there? Grace continued. I was sent by the general manager to serve as the young master's scholar attendant. She observed the disheveled man with a sharp, scrutinizing gaze. To think that these so-called guards are dozing off in broad daylight. They're not just ordinary guards. They're masters. No matter how much the young master is looked down upon, he is still the legitimate heir of the Sword Pavilion. It would be completely unreasonable to have lowly guards protecting him. Grace maintained a poised posture and announced herself. I am the scholar attendant. Grace, this is an order from the general manager. The scarred guard waved his hand dismissively with his eyes half closed. Just let her through. The first guard obediently nodded in agreement. Yes, sir. Grace narrowed her eyes, finding this lack of security highly suspicious. Even if they are masters, they wouldn't be so careless as to not even conduct a proper check. The scarred guard shouted, Open the gate for her. Grace took a deep breath, steeling herself for what lay ahead. She entered the dense, vibrant forest surrounding the pavilion grounds. The scarred guard's stern warning echoed ominously in her mind. Oh, and I forgot to mention, absolutely do not stray from the forest path under any circumstances. This isn't an ordinary forest path. This is an advanced formation, array the likes of which I've never seen. If I didn't have these golden eyes, who knows what would have happened? The Pavilion of Enlightenment. No, the entire forest is forming an array. Just looking at the formation makes me feel as if I'll be crushed like a bug. Grace stood dwarfed, completely overwhelmed by the resentful energy enveloping the forest path. The protagonist is just an ordinary child with no internal energy. She should be nothing more or less than that. How can she see the barrier of the Pavilion of Enlightenment? Grace was startled and quickly turned her head towards the source of the voice. A complex illusionary barrier shimmered and distorted violently around them. Yuan Wo easily strode through the dense, magical forest path. How did you? She widened her eyes, trembling. Where is this place? I locked. A terrifying entity suddenly shrieked right in front of her. Something stirred in the still water. She was pulled down into the dark, bone-chillingly cold lake at the bottom of a deep abyss. Pale, deathly white hands reached up from the murky depths, violently grabbing at her. The ghostly hands worse ever as she screamed. "Save me, please, someone." A firm, strong, warm hand suddenly grasped hers, just as her consciousness faded. Yuanwo easily caught the unconscious Grace in his arms. He observed her delicate face closely. The protagonist assessed with a hint of amusement. The general manager sent an interesting one. A moment later, Grace lay quietly on a soft bed bathed in warm sunlight. She slowly opened her eyes, waking up in confusion. Where am I? This place is where? It's simple, yet exudes an air of elegance. She walked around the room, silently appraising it. Grace carefully looked through a thick book. The books recorded everything from the medicine of various sects across the country to martial sword arts. So, all the books in this room are. I can't believe. The collections that should be stored in the Imperial Palace are here. Oh, a gentle breeze blew through her long hair, carrying the scent of flowers to the window. She was drawn to it and stepped forward to look. A picturesque courtyard looked completely out of place with the cold weather. It's still winter outside. But in here, it's as warm as a spring day. She stared at the magical scene, momentarily speechless. Yuanwo stood amidst the fallen petals, looking up at her. So, did you sleep well? When you're ready, come down. Grace quickly recognized him. That's the young master. She immediately responded in a fluster. Yes, sir. A while later, the protagonist asked from his seat inside the room. Did you say your name was Grace? Grace stood respectfully before him. Yes, that is correct. He switched to a teasing tone. Right. Come to think of it, you were really heavy earlier. Grace was stunned by the sudden remark. What did you say? Then she thought. Right. I was. He calmly explained the situation. I found you collapsed on the ground while I was taking a walk. Although the Pavilion of Enlightenment is warm, if I had found you a little later, you would have been in big trouble. Grace bowed deeply. This lowly girl will never forget the debt of you saving my life. From now on, in serving you, this lowly girl will not spare her own body and will devote her entire being to you. Young master. Yuan cut her off coldly, his voice turning icy. I never said I would accept you. Are you deciding to serve me on your own? Or is this an order from the general manager, dictating my will? The young master of this place? Take it back. Grace panicked, instantly realizing her fatal mistake. She immediately dropped to her knees in prostration. Please forgive me. Young master, please grant death to this lowly one. The protagonist sighed. Good heavens, I went to the trouble of saving your life, and now you're asking me to kill you? Grace, she replied anxiously. This lowly girl will regard the life the young master saved as a debt of gratitude for this entire lifetime and will do anything for you. Young master. Yuan. Wo smiled, though in his heart, he was calculating her true value. Those eyes, shining with a golden aura. Yes, you are that person from my past life. In our previous life, we never met face to face. But what a tragic, fateful connection. Golden-eyed Demoness. He broke the heavy atmosphere with a question. Do you know how to cook? She asked back. Cooking? The protagonist confirmed. That's right. Later, she was sitting tiredly in a smoke-filled kitchen. It's all because I fainted on that forest path. Anyway, I'm sure I saw something. Was it just a terrible nightmare? Ha! Get a grip. Now, focus on preparing the meal. I can't believe I lost my composure so easily. He never lost the upper hand. Not even for a moment. And yet, he could shake someone like me, who always has excellent self-control. Is someone like that really the swordless heir? Right now, meatballs aren't the important thing. The protagonist suddenly leaned over. Are we having meatballs for dinner tonight? Grace was completely taken by surprise and backed away as he added. Strange. You're cooking. So if the menu isn't important, then what is? Grace replied. No, they are very important. The protagonist stated. I'm hungry. Don't take too long. Her face flushed as she replied. Yes, sir. A lavish, steaming feast was meticulously arranged on the dining table. The protagonist looked around the impressive spread with genuine appreciation. You've prepared quite a lot of food in a short amount of time. Well done. Grace stood politely by the table. Please enjoy your meal at your leisure, young master. Yuan Mo raised an eyebrow. Don't just stand there. Use it down too. She resolutely refused, strictly adhering to the rules of a servant. I cannot, sir. This lowly girl will eat after the young master has finished. He glared at her with a heavy pressure and ordered, sit down. Don't make me say it a second time. Grace immediately obeyed, sitting down rigidly. Why, yes. Seeing her bowl was still empty, the protagonist took the initiative to place a meatball in it and told her to try it. Grace could only stare at the food in her bowl, not understanding what was happening. Soon after, Yuanwo continued to place another dish in her bowl, making her even more confused. How can this lowly girl eat before you? Sir, the protagonist continued. Come on, eat. Grace cautiously took a bite of the meatball. The protagonist immediately asked with great interest if it tasted good. After tasting it, she nodded slightly in confirmation. Yuanwo, reassured, picked up his chopsticks to eat as well. Then I must try it too. LHO. This is delicious. You have a talent for cooking. It's simple, but the flavor is incredibly deep. Give me another bowl. This is really delicious. Serve me another bowl. Another bowl. A little more. Time passed as night fell, enveloping the pavilion of enlightenment. She bowed her head in apology before the empty pots and pans. My deepest apologies. Young master, we've run out of rice. The protagonist put down his chopsticks. I don't feel completely satisfied yet, but perhaps it's best to stop before I'm full. I'll be taking my leave. Grace quickly stood up. Should this lowly girl prepare some tea? He waved his hand dismissively as he walked away. No, a little wine would be better right now. Later, Yuan Wo sat alone on the high rooftop under the bright full moon. Strange, if I ate that much, I should be stuffed. So, why isn't my hunger sated? If I had to guess, it's probably because of the scripture of annihilating darkness and shattering heaven. The price for possessing a wicked entity capable of reversing time and twisting fate. Is it simply an insatiable appetite? Is that really it? Suddenly, the entity's ghostly hands clutched his head in a craving for karmic sin. Destiny. Destiny. The woman. The chosen one. The chosen one. The protagonist calmly accepted the dark magic as it enveloped his body. The dark entity whispered directly into his mind with a chilling excitement. The chosen one. The time has come. The dark entity had completely merged with his monstrous ego, a wicked smile on his face. Let's enjoy this together. It's time for the feast to begin. In a tavern in Luoring, innkeeper Long anxiously blocked the path of a martial artist in a green robe. My apologies, sir, but the inn is completely full today. The martial artist pointed towards the back of the room in annoyance. What do you mean? There's clearly an empty table over there. The old innkeeper waved his hands frantically in a desperate attempt to stop him. Oh, dear heavens. You can't go in there. Sir? He confidently strode forward, completely ignoring the innkeeper's warnings. I told you. I can clearly see a spot. He immediately broke out in a cold sweat as a wave of absolute terror washed over him. The protagonist was manically tearing at a chunk of meat, his eyes glowing with unholy, vain patterns while thick juices dripped down his chin. Not this. This isn't enough. Not this. Not this. Still not enough. Not this flavor. This still isn't enough. The martial artist trembled uncontrollably, his legs shaking beneath his robes, as he witnessed the horrifying scene. A hungry ghost. It's a hungry ghost. A hungry ghost that has crawled up from hell. A hungry ghost from hell has appeared. The protagonist continued to chew ferociously. No, this isn't enough. It's still not it. Yuan was suddenly shot to his feet, leaving behind a trembling mess. His body was enveloped in a suffocating aura of resentment. How much? The old innkeeper was sweating profusely, his face pale, with utter terror as he stammered. Yuan tossed a pouch of money to him and said, Is this enough? The innkeeper bowed anxiously with his hands clasped together. Thank you. Travel safely. My lord, a man with a bandaged head whispered nervously. Was that person really a demon? The old innkeeper whispered back sharply. Stop talking nonsense. Quick, sprinkle some salt after he's gone. The night sky was illuminated by the bright moon. As the protagonist's chilling voice echoed, "How strange. So very strange. Even after eating so much, I still don't feel full. Then what must I consume to satisfy this hunger? Have I truly become a..." The protagonist's eyes darkened with delicious anticipation. Meanwhile, in a quiet and deserted alley in the city, the silence was broken by a violent brawl. A beaten man crashed down onto the stone pavement. A muscular thug laughed mockingly, looking down at the fallen man. "How dare you try to cheat us? Do you think our black bone sect is a joke?" The man coughed up blood and stammered, "You bastards. Let's just take his identity token and go." The leader snatched the wooden token from in front of the bleeding man. "Isn't this a truly wonderful world? With just this, I can sell everything from your shop to your wife." The beaten man grabbed his leg and desperately begged, "Please, just take me. Don't touch my family." The leader looked down at him with contempt. "Then you should have paid on time. Do you think this old, wrinkled body of yours can turn a profit? Let's see how much your young, promising children will sell for. Or maybe I should keep them for myself?" He licked his lips greedily, completely unaware of the lurking shadows. "Huh? Is that a whistle? Which bastard is it?" I asked which bastard it is. "Show yourself." The piercing whistle relentlessly attacked their hearing, causing the bald thug to clutch his head in immense pain. The leader ordered his underlings to be able to shake one's soul with just a whistle. This is definitely a true master. The leader hurriedly clasped his hands in a formal greeting. "This humble one does not know which esteemed master you are, but do you have some business with us?" The three thugs stood hunched over in formation, trembling while maintaining a respectful bow. "If you have business with us, could you please deign to show yourself?" A foot stepped out from the shadows. The protagonist slowly emerged from the darkness. His single purple eye glowed menacingly. He leisurely took another step towards them, the hem of his white robe fluttering amidst the thick demonic aura. Yuan Wo gave a terrifying smile. His glowing purple eye radiated a primal malice. "I smell something delicious. So it was here." He vanished. The leader, in absolute terror, desperately grabbed for the hilt of his sword to strike. He could no longer feel his arm. The bald man witnessed the horrifying dismemberment, his eyes bulging out of their sockets in sheer terror. "Boss!" Yuan Wo lifted the screaming leader with a twisted delight. "So delicious. Absolutely delicious." He casually dropped the mangled corpse. The body, now completely drenched in blood and dark energy, fell to the ground. A brilliant white light flashed through the night. Monstrous hands emerged and slowly devoured the corpse. He turned towards the remaining underlings. "Oh, there are still two of you here." The bald one turned and ran. "It's a monster. Run." The protagonist watched them flee with indifference for a millisecond before launching himself forward in a violent explosion of demonic energy, transforming into a terrifying shadowy beast. The bald man writhed in panic as beads of sweat poured down his terrified face. A blood-soaked hand reached out from the crimson night. The body of the man behind him had been pierced through. This must be a nightmare." The bald man abandoned his comrade and fled, alone without daring to look back. Under the ominous blood-red moon, the bald man screamed himself hoarse as shadowy tentacles surged after him. He pounded on a door, crying and wailing with tears streaming down his face. "Damn it. Is anyone there? Is anyone there? Why are you doing this? You monster. There are so many evil people in this world. So, why us?" Yuan Wo stood tall over the groveling thug. The protagonist leaned in close, motionless on the cold stone floor of a dark cave. He slowly opened his eyes, touching his forehead as he weakly regained consciousness. "Where is this place? I remember leaving the tavern." He looked around the gloomy space, noticing a few clay figures. Oh, they looked nimble enough to spring up and attack at any moment. How were they made? A deep, ominous voice echoed from a swirling mass of purple demonic energy. So calm, as expected of the brat, chosen by the scripture of annihilating darkness and shattering heaven. The protagonist replied, his voice sharp and thoroughly amused by the flattery. "Precisely." The protagonist responded by flashing an arrogant smile. "Due to your poor dental hygiene, isn't it obvious that all your teeth have fallen out?" The old man stared intently, captivated by the boy's extreme audacity. The more I look at you, the more I like you, brat. It seems this time, the scripture has found a suitable host. The boy continued. This time, it has found its true master. The old man chuckled and added, I've never seen anyone like you, brat. But tell me, I wonder how much a brat like you truly knows about the scripture to be spouting such nonsense. The protagonist froze, thinking, the scripture of annihilating darkness and shattering heaven. It's an ancient demonic artifact. An artifact with power so immense, it could bend time and send me back to the past. The irrationality and the absence of karma. I heaven-defying scripture created from the skin, blood, and sinews of three celestial beings. But beyond that, I really don't know much more. If that's the case, he suddenly bowed, respectfully to the seated spirit, displaying a surprising thirst for knowledge. Please, instruct me. The crimson eyes of the old man widened slightly. Oh, H.O. Usually, the chosen ones show one of two reactions when they come here. Either an arrogant attitude, that the only thing they lack is power, or they are so blinded by madness that it's impossible to have a proper conversation. But you are completely different from them. Yuan Wo listened silently, noting the subtle shift in the entity's tone before the old man sighed wearily. His form of address just changed from brat to you. The old man added, to be honest, this old man doesn't truly understand the scripture of annihilating darkness and shattering heaven either. They say that in ancient times, celestial beings, enraged to the point of madness, flayed their own skin and bones to create. But in reality, even its origin is unclear, and I cannot be certain, because this old man was once a celestial being myself. The protagonist asked with genuine curiosity, why is that? The red I carried, the deep sorrow of millennia. No, I was a celestial being. Now I have fallen so low that I'm not even worth a speck of dust. But I have spent eons studying this demonic artifact. However, discovering one answer lead to two questions, and understanding two things gave rise to three more unknowns. Even so, I did not stop. No, I couldn't stop. But I still cannot understand. Hearing this, he thought to himself, unbelievable. Someone who was once a celestial being spent eons studying it and still doesn't know the answer. The old man continued his tale. Countless chosen ones have tried to become the master of this demonic artifact, but they all failed. They were all figures who shone as brightly as the stars in the night sky. But in the end, they were all devoured. But I have seen a glimmer of hope in you. You have completed the initiation rite and begun this long journey. The protagonist frowned, confused. Initiation rite? What do you mean? The old man gave a chillingly knowing smile. Haven't you devoured them yet? The boy suddenly took a sharp breath, as the dark truth dawned on him. A flashback revealed the protagonist completely drenched in fresh blood, standing amidst a brutal massacre in the alley. His persona at that moment smiled cruelly, his purple eye glowing with a crazed ecstasy. The old man's voice echoed, the more evil you devour, the more power of the scripture you can awaken. Yuan Wo accepted this grim reality. Now that you mention it, I don't feel hungry anymore. He thought to himself. It was an act against the laws of heaven and utterly repulsive. Yet it felt so satisfying. On behalf of an indifferent and lazy heavenly Tao, isn't it a heaven-defying scripture meant to incinerate and devour all the darkness of this realm? However, it seems devour doesn't just mean the physical act of chewing and swallowing. The old man confirmed with wicked glee. That's right. Those hands are the hungry ghosts of the scripture. They will assist with your meals within the domain you manifest, with your demonic energy. It seems our time is almost up. We will meet again soon. So before then, I wish you a fruitful hunt. Yuan Wo's sharp, azure eyes narrowed with cold determination. And then he vanished from that place. In the night, the next day, from behind the door, young master, this lowly girl has brought tea and snacks. She silently strategized in her sharp mind. I figured out a few things since coming here, the protagonist said. Grace assessed the risks. First, the main two-story building where the young master's bedchamber is located is very dangerous. The martial arts manuals are recorded on bamboo slips. That item is clearly priceless. And if someone were to even glance at its contents, it's obvious it would vanish that very day. Manhwa washed his hands and said, "Well then, let's enjoy making breakfast today too." Grace stammered, "Young master, isn't that a bit?" She analyzed his highly unusual behavior internally. The young master personally harvests vegetables and helps with the kitchen work, and he always dines at the same table as us servants. Yet he seems surprisingly accustomed to it. Grace sat stiffly opposite him at the dining table. "You're telling this lowly girl to sit at the same table today as well?" He answered casually. "Not just today, but always. Starting from now on," she added worriedly. "How can this humble girl eat before the young master?" The protagonist offered a gentle smile. "Eat up." She silently noted her final and most crucial deduction. "And third, no matter how I look at it, he clearly has no romantic interest in me. It's truly baffling." The narrator says that Grace was so beautiful, she was nicknamed the Ice Flower, attracting everyone's attention. And the second and third young masters, who were attracting attention as strong candidates for the next clan head, were no exception, especially since any woman who fell into their hands would disappear without a trace. Grace couldn't help but be terrified by their attention. It was fortunate that the young master seemed indifferent to her, but even that was a matter of life and death for her. The steps of an approaching guard interrupted her train of thought as Grace questioned her fateful choice. Indeed, following the general manager's advice in coming to the young master's place to avoid the second and third young masters, was that the right decision? The scarred guard hurried in, awkwardly rubbing the back of his neck. "Young master, this subordinate has an urgent matter to report." Grace immediately snapped. "You are being disrespectful. The young master is dining. How dare you?" He waved his hand to cut off her scolding. The thing is, we have a visitor." Grace demanded a clear answer. "Who has come?" He explained his intrusion with a pained expression. "He claims to be a triple threat guard from the main family, or something like that." Grace immediately recognized the imminent danger and thought. The triple threat guard is the armed unit directly under the third young master's command. He relayed the person's message. "He told me to bring the new scholar attendant who arrived yesterday to see him." She recalled the general manager's words and realized this moment had come. Grace maintained a calm expression, clearly asserting her rightful position. "I am that scholar attendant, but how dare a mere triple threat guard arbitrarily command the young master's attendant like this?" He sighed, feeling completely helpless. "I told him the same thing, but he said he was acting on the third young master's orders and I couldn't stop him on my own." Grace glared. "Even so, how could you do that?" Yuanmo suddenly slammed his hand on the wooden table with a loud bang, instantly silencing the argument. "Go see what he wants." Grace turned to look at him in astonishment. "Young master." The protagonist looked down with an indifferent expression. "It's getting noisy? So just go out and see what's wrong." She could only obey, thinking to herself, even if the third young master is arrogant and overbearing, to dare to ignore all rules to take me away. Grace continued, "Young master, this lowly girl will take her leave and will be back shortly." The protagonist spoke up. "Wait, you two." The man jolted. "Huh? Are you talking to me?" He replied casually. "Yes, I'm talking to you. Who gave you permission to come and go as you please?" He stammered. About that, I know I shouldn't barge in without permission. But," the protagonist cut him off coldly. "You know you're not allowed to barge in, yet you still did?" He said in a panic. It's not like that. Normally, the messenger servant is always on duty at the main gate. But after what happened yesterday," the protagonist delicately rested his chin on his hand. "I'll wait, Cho. So if no one is there, that means you can come and go as you please?" The man dropped to his knees, clasping his hands together earnestly. "No, sir. This subordinate knows his crime. Young master, I guarantee this will never happen again." The protagonist looked down without pity. "Is that so? Then, I will forgive you just this once. In return, from now on, you will be the messenger at the main gate. Starting now, you are to be on duty at the main gate indefinitely." His jaw dropped. "From what?" The protagonist added, "Your right to enter and exit is known. If you don't like it, then this time, just try doing whatever you want." He accepted his miserable fate with a weary sigh. This subordinate will obey the young master's command. The man gritted his teeth, thinking, "Damn it, I can't believe I've been demoted to a gatekeeper." The protagonist glared at the lingering man. "Why are you still standing there? He jumped. Ah, yes. I'm going. I'm going. A burly martial artist with a goatee and a sheathed sword at his hip stood indignantly in the courtyard. A guest has traveled a long way to get here, and this is how you receive them. Grace bowed her head in a very respectful greeting. It is an honor to meet you, sir. This lowly girl's name is Grace. He glared at her and demanded loudly, "Let me inside. I need to see your master." He is a direct subordinate of the third young master, a triple threat guard. Speaking clearly, Grace maintained her composure. The young master has instructed that no guests are to be received. If there is a matter to be discussed, please speak with me here. Here. He drew his sword from its sheath and growled, "You crazy woman. You dared to provoke me?" Just as the sword was raised, casting a shadow across her face, her eyes contracted in shock. Unexpectedly, the scarred man slammed his scabbard against the blade, blocking its path with incredible force. "This is a restricted area. Don't go too far." The man grimaced with deep, suppressed rage. Damn it. Damn it. Who are you? If this doesn't concern you, don't interfere." The scarred man's eyes suddenly glowed with a terrifying, blood-red light as a violent dark aura exploded from his body. "This is your final warning." The newcomer was sweating profusely. Stop joking around and, before he could finish, he fell silent, thinking, "Wait a minute." The scarred man's voice was thick with killing intent. "I was already pissed off about being demoted. Damn it. All of you like to look down on me, don't you? I will really strike." You know, completely overwhelmed by the scarred man's terrifying killing intent. He thought, "This guy, he's dangerous." Immediately backing down, he spoke anxiously to save face. "I understand. Anyway, I only have business with that girl. Hey, you have to come with me to see the third young master." Grace firmly refused the command. "The third young master is not the one who decides my fate." His face contorted in rage. A vein bulged on his forehead at her blatant insolence. A lowly servant girl dares to talk back about everything. Grace glared back without fear. "I am merely stating the proper rules of this household." He issued a venomous threat. "Let's see if you can still be so arrogant in front of the third young master. You'd best behave yourself before then, because the third young master hates using other people's leftovers." After saying this, he turned to leave. Just then, an elderly steward walked past him. He approached the two still standing there. "You have worked hard." He is the general manager, the Aqua Lord. The moment they met, he spoke with a loud, arrogant tone. "You insolent girl, quickly take me to see your master. I am the general manager responsible for the Aqua Lord of the second young master." Grace refused, still holding her ground firmly. "The young master is not receiving guests." The old steward narrowed his eyes. "Is it true that the young master is not receiving guests as this child says? I must personally ensure that this letter from the second young master is delivered directly." The scarred man stepped in front of Grace, acting as an immovable wall. "That is correct. So please give the letter to this Mater Start in return." The old steward realized he couldn't force his way through inside in resignation. "Then I suppose there's no other way. No matter what you're scheming in that little head of yours, in the end, you won't be able to escape the second young master's grasp." She replied softly, "I will ensure the letter is delivered to its destination." The old steward handed over the letter and turned to leave, prompting the scarred man to make a sharp remark. "Actually, the young master never really gave an order to forbid guests, did he?" Grace replied immediately, "He did not give a direct order, but in my judgment, he cut her off. I don't have any affection for your young master either. The only reason I'm telling you this because I couldn't bear to see a girl the age of my own daughter fall into such a difficult situation. Are you trying to pledge loyalty to the young master? Or are you simply trying to protect yourself?" The young master could dismiss them with a single word. So why do you think he doesn't? "All right, I'm leaving. Give the letter to the young master." The guard turned his back completely, leaving her alone to think. "Ever since I was sold to the Luring Sword Pavilion, there have been many people I owe a debt of gratitude to. Now that I think about it, I have never once seriously thought about the true meaning of the word loyalty. I thought all this time that I had been loyally repaying every debt of gratitude. But that was just a mindset of reciprocity. I have treated the young master the same way." Grace respectfully presented the letter to the protagonist, but he casually tossed the unopened letter straight into the charcoal brazier. igniting it, completely ignoring its importance. Young master, that letter was personally sent to you by the second young master. Yuan Wo sat comfortably at his desk, reading a book with an air of complete calm. I heard. Grace was sweating nervously. Uh, ah, that letter is surely inquiring about the whereabouts of the Materstard. And I believe it is a letter that the second young master sent directly to the young master. Sir, is it really no problem not to read it? The protagonist turned a new page, completely unconcerned. If it weren't really that important, he would have come himself. If you're so curious, why don't you read it yourself? Grace gasped in astonishment, completely taken aback by the absurd suggestion. What, sir? You mean, what? He continued. I said if you're so interested, you should have read it. Grace's face turned pale as she stammered. How could this lowly girl dare to do such a bold and heaven-defying thing? Knowing everything was fine, the protagonist calmly invited Grace to sit. She agreed. They both began to enjoy the tea, and the protagonist took a small sip and couldn't help but praise the fragrant aroma. It was perfect. Grace suddenly froze, a terrifying thought flashing through her mind. Why didn't I read it first? What did he mean by that? Wait a minute. I knew it. So that's it. The young master always waits for me to take the first bite before he starts eating. Could it be poisoning? The reason we've been preparing meals together all this time is because he doesn't trust me at all. I see. To him, I'm just as untrustworthy as everyone else. Grace abruptly stood up and said respectfully, Young master, this lowly girl is just an uninvited guest. The protagonist calmly continued to read his book, showing no sign of surprise. I understand. And although I am reporting this a bit late, this lowly girl took the liberty of informing them that the young master is not receiving any guests. This lowly girl is truly a fool. I acted as if I knew too many things. Just smart, as if I knew everything. But I didn't realize what was truly. Perhaps all this time, I was just desperately trying to survive, and working for so long at the guest pavilion, where there was no true master to serve, is the root of the problem. Young master, if right now, this lowly girl is willing to offer everything, she hasn't swear absolute loyalty to you, would you accept it? Yuanwo finally looked at her with a sharp and serious gaze. No matter what happens, no matter what you come to know, and no matter how dangerous it gets, can you still swear loyalty to me? You can. Grace looked up without fear, her golden eyes burning with an unshakable fire of devotion. Yes, this lowly girl can devote herself entirely to you. Sir, Yuanwo tested her knowledge of the clan's dark secrets. Do you happen to know anything about my father? Grace answered timidly. Isn't he the old master? I heard he is currently bedridden in the inner palace due to a serious illness and handles all the clan's affairs from his sickbed. The protagonist's face darkened as he revealed a horrifying truth. It's not an illness. My father has been in a coma due to poisoning for a very long time. Currently, the Lowering Sword Pavilion is actually being run by its highest decision-making body. Because of that, since I was young, I have had to manage all my food and drink entirely within this pavilion of enlightenment. Even so, can you guess how many times they have tried to poison me? She replied nervously. This lowly girl dares not even imagine. He warned her of the extreme severity of the clan's internal decay. What I have just told you is just a small, hidden corner of the darkness that the Lowering Sword Pavilion is hiding. But even so, do you still wish to serve me? Grace clutched the hem of her robe. Please allow this lowly girl to serve you as a true master. The protagonist pulled out a letter hidden in the sleeve of his white robe and handed it to her. If that's the case, then read the last page of this letter. Grace respectfully took the paper and read the cruel content aloud. Therefore, if that girl honestly confesses to the aforementioned matters, just keep her and use her as a workhorse to command. But if she cannot shed her innate nature and tries to bargain with you, young master, then I advise you to quietly kill her. Grace cried silently as the cruel betrayal shattered her entire world. Why? Why? General Manager? He treated me like a father. The protagonist spoke calmly. Do you understand why I showed you that letter? Grace wiped away her tears. Yes. Young master, it's because of loyalty. This lowly girl ventures to guess that you were showing me what true loyalty is. Loyalty. The protagonist closed his eyes, expressing his deep skepticism towards the concept. I consider it madness. Otherwise, how can you explain a thing that made a man abandon his own child? If I accept you, do you still want to pledge loyalty to me? Her heart filled with absolute devotion and gratitude. Whether you accept this lowly girl or not is your right. Young master, I will serve my master with absolute loyalty. You are my only master. He gave a gentle, satisfied smile. That is a very satisfying answer. The magnificent exterior of the Pavilion of Enlightenment shone under the light of the bright, golden full moon. Grace sat respectfully opposite the protagonist. She recounted her old story. My father used to run a family merchant guild, and the three of us father, my older sister, and I lived very happily together. However, when the merchant guild ran into difficulties, we had to borrow from the underlord's debt, and then everything collapsed, and a string of misfortunes. Yes, at first, they lured us with low interest rates, but in the end, it was a cruel scheme that forced the borrower to repay 10 times the original amount. My older sister, who had outstanding business talent, took a few gambles with my father, but in the end, the misfortunes just kept piling up. Because of the insurmountable debt, my sister and I were sold to different clans. He analyzed the situation with a calm tone. Even if it is your older sister, the age gap between you can't be that large. Was she really capable enough to help run the merchant guild? Hearing this, Grace said, my older sister has always been an exceptionally brilliant person, even when we were young. Currently, she has settled in Lewaring and is working as a rather well-known intelligence broker. Yuan Wo narrowed his sharp eyes, thinking, an intelligence broker, she added, and not long ago, I received a letter from her saying she had found the mastermind behind our family's misfortunes. I still can't forget him. The shiny, sweaty face and obese body of the bastard named Jinshul. The protagonist immediately paid attention when he heard the name Jinshul. She explained, that's probably not his real name, but everyone calls him that. After hearing this, Yuan Wo looked straight at her and quickly came up with a plan, asking if her sister was a professional intelligence broker. Hearing her confirmation, he calmly took another sip of tea. It must have been a long time since you last saw her. Tomorrow, we will go see your sister. Grace's eyes widened, while her face lit up with joy. Really? The protagonist smiled. We can stay there for about half a day, so let's go there and catch up to your heart's content. The next day, under the bright sky, Grace wore a new set of clothes. Young master, I am ready. Yuan Wo leaned in close. Is that all you could do? Grace broke out in a nervous sweat. Is it not to your liking, sir? He stepped into the middle of the courtyard, his voice commanding towards the entrance. An attendant escorting the young master of the Lewaring Sword Pavilion. Looking like this is too shabby. Gatekeeper! The scarred man stomped forward. You may be the young master, but what do you mean by gatekeeper? My name is. The protagonist cut him off with a commanding wave of his hand. Shut your mouth. Gatekeeper, go find any manager in the inner courtyard and bring back a few sets of women's clothing. Remember to get the finest quality. The man clenched his jaw. What did you just say? Yuan Wo issued a dark threat. If you don't run there right now, you won't just be a gatekeeper. You'll become the manure leader for the Pavilion of Enlightenment. The man stammered. Why do I have to? He glared with a ferocious killing intent. Your attitude is terrible, isn't it? Manure. The man immediately cast aside his pride and bowed his head frantically. This subordinate will go at once. She watched his retreating back. What an unbelievably fast and skilled footwork. The man dashed madly through the estate, burning with bitter resentment. Damn it. I've dedicated my entire life to the Lewaring Sword Pavilion. He uses his father's command as an excuse to shut himself in and live a wasted life. And yet he dares to mock me? That's right. I've officially applied for a transfer. So, I just need to endure a little longer. A moment later, he returned with his shoulders slumped. This subordinate went there, but they said they wouldn't give it to me. They said the young master knows the reason best. Yuan Wo rubbed his chin, pondering for a moment. Grace anxiously watched the delay from behind. Young master, we are already late. Perhaps we should depart now. He suddenly remembered an important detail. It's been so long that I completely forgot. The protagonist casually reached deep into the sleeve of his pristine white robe. He fumbled for a moment, grabbing a heavy object. Yuan Wo slammed a massive gold ingot straight onto the man's forehead. Go back to the inner courtyard. If you show them this, they will automatically hand it over. The man stammered, "No, young master." Even if that's the case, the protagonist casually kicked the kneeling guard. "You talk too much. Get on your feet and run." The man had no choice but to obey. Then she spoke up. "Young master, that is, Yuan Wo," casually added. "It's exactly what you're thinking." The golden seal representing the clan head. Grace's eyes trembled as the weight of the treasure was conveyed. "The sword pavilion's golden seal? Why do you have it, young master?" He smirked arrogantly. "Because my father is in that condition. Besides me, the young master of this family. Who else could hold it?" The sword pavilion's golden seal, the sacred artifact of the Luoring sword pavilion's clan head, was a gift bestowed by the previous emperor. A seal symbolizing supreme power and carrying an absolute command. Grace couldn't help but wonder why her master would use such a precious item to care for the clothes of a servant like her. But the protagonist just calmly told her not to worry, because he had long been accustomed to using precious items for things that others considered useless. Well, like when I buy books, paper, or brushes. If I don't use this, no one cooperates with me properly. It's just an item for me to use for such things. Grace was completely stunned by his absurd indifference. "Why, yes." An authoritative female voice suddenly called from outside the pavilion. "Young master, please come out for a moment." A high-ranking female manager bowed respectfully in the middle of the courtyard. Air Courtyard General Manager Lady Vu pays her respects to the young master. "We have brought the items you requested." The protagonist crossed his arms, clicking his tongue with extreme annoyance. "See? It would have been easier for everyone if you had cooperated from the beginning." The female manager covered her mouth to hide her trembling rage, forcing a strained smile. "Yes, then we shall take our leave." "All right, let's go." The courtyard was filled with dozens of giant wooden crates and luxurious chests. Grace was overwhelmed by the mountain of silks and brocades. Young master, I don't think these things are suitable for someone of my status." Yuan Wo declared his grand ambition. "You have come to this pavilion of enlightenment, and I have made my move. From now on, you will have many opportunities to wear clothes like these." Grace nodded with a fierce and new-found loyalty. "Yes, young master." The scene changes to a while later. Luoring has long been the political, economic, and cultural center of the continent and is currently the heart of the northern domestic logistics network. Thanks to the massive volume of goods flowing through the Grand Canal, it has developed into a massive city with millions of inhabitants. As the group passed by, the people on both sides of the road immediately started buzzing. Grace's striking beauty even made them mistake her for a noble lady, but as soon as someone pointed carelessly, the person next to them quickly stopped them, reminding them to be careful because the guard accompanying them was from the Luoring Sword Pavilion, a power no one dared to offend lightly. The guard grumbled to himself. "I can't believe he's just strolling around like this, leaving the martial artist guards behind. After everything I've done for the Sword Pavilion, they treat me like a messenger, a follower, and now an escort." He turned back slightly. "I have some personal business to attend too, so I'll join you later." The guard snapped out of his anger. "What are you talking about? Don't tell me you're planning to leave me." "Your guard? Behind?" The protagonist replied. "Of course. You just need to make sure you protect Grace well." The guard grimaced. "No. What kind of nonsense is this? Don't laugh." "Huh? Where did he go?" "Damn it. Made her start." "I'm sorry, but you'll have to handle your business on your own." Grace was completely calm. "I can protect myself. So please don't worry about me and take good care of the young master. Because for some reason, I can't imagine anything bad happening to him." The guard shot upwards to chase after the protagonist. "Damn it, he's too fast. Then I'll go find the young master first." Standing on a tall rooftop, he thought to himself, "I circulated my internal energy to escort him properly. And yet, he vanished right before my eyes without leaving a single trace. What is the true identity of this young master?" The scene shifts to the evening. The protagonist stood silently before a heavy wooden door. The wooden door slowly opened as Yuan Wo stepped inside. An old man with his hair in a bun respectfully gestured. "You have arrived. This place is a bit shabby, but please come in." The old man was horrified when he witnessed the completely trashed courtyard. It seems the bastards from the Blackbone sect came here too." "My lady, my love, Where are you? Are you alright? A woman with bruises and 2 children rushed towards the old man. Oh dear. What happened to you? The children burst into tears of overwhelming relief as they ran to embrace the old man. Father! The family clung to each other, crying bitterly in the desolate courtyard while Yuan Wo watched silently. The woman suddenly looked up, noticing the majestic presence of the protagonist standing right behind her husband. My lord, we will definitely pay back the interest in full. Please be merciful and spare us just this once. We need to keep our limbs intact to be able to repay you. Right? The children knelt and begged for their father to be spared. The old man bent down to reassure them. Calm down. This gentleman is the great benefactor who saved my life. The woman was utterly astonished by the explanation. Oh dear. Is that so? Thank you so much. My lord. Yuan most silently observed the pitiful family without a word. Seeing this, the old man stepped forward and invited the protagonist in for tea before he left. Hearing this, the protagonist agreed to do so. Inside the simple room, the old man poured tea while sheepishly saying that it was just cheap tea. He was afraid it wouldn't suit the protagonist's taste, but after calmly taking a sip, the young man smiled and praised the tea's delicious aroma, which put the old man at ease. My lord, how can my family ever repay you for saving our lives? Yuan Wo casually waved his hand, dismissing the thanks and steering the conversation to the attackers. Don't worry about it. I didn't act expecting any reward. Anyway, I heard it was the Blackbone sect that persecuted you and destroyed this place. The old man said respectfully. Yes. Those people made a pact with the bastards of the Blackbone sect. The Blackbone sect is a cruel dark organization led by Jinju, under a man named Jinchul. From loan sharking to gambling dens, wherever they smell money, they will never let it go. It's an extremely huge organization. The protagonist looked straight at the old man. Why did you step into a gambling den? The old man said that's how they got him. Because the interest rates on private credit were strictly controlled by the government. So they forced debtors to participate in gambling to make the debt swell even larger. He looked down with a pensive expression, recalling his past efforts. That law limiting interest rates was personally drafted by my father and me, and negotiated with the government before. However, the protagonist bluntly asked for more information. Do you know anything more about Jinchul or Jinju? The old man looked extremely pained and helpless. How much more can low-ranking people like us possibly know? He half closed his eyes, accepting that he had hit a dead end. Huh, I understand. All right, the tea was delicious. I must take my leave here. The old man frantically stood up, not wanting his benefactor to leave without receiving any repayment. Are you leaving just like that? At least, please leave your esteemed name, my lord, so that one day we may have the chance to repay you. The protagonist strode towards the door, completely ignoring him. There's no need to bother. Suddenly, his sharp eyes darted towards a dark, hidden corner of the room. Masks amidst a pile of broken mask fragments on the floor. Yuan Wo walked over and picked up the strange mask. Then I will take this in place of repayment. The old man looked extremely stunned and anxious. You wish to use that to cancel all debts of gratitude? Oh, that mask. To be honest with you, my lord, I did not make it. As you can see, that mask has no holes carved for the eyes or nose, and its surface hasn't even been properly polished. It is the final work of my father, a man who went mad in his final years. He crafted it until his last breath. Moreover, I've heard rumors recently that it is an ominous object, so I was planning to destroy it. He stared thoughtfully at the crude mask. Why do you think your father left this mask as his final work? The old man continued. After all, what would a madman think about? A sharp smile that seemed to understand everything crept onto Yuan Wo's face. Didn't something happen to your father before he went mad? The old man looked confused, then told the truth. Actually, I once had an older brother who was much more talented than me, but one day, he was falsely accused of ridiculous crimes and thrown into the government's great prison. My father, who was a craftsman of some renown, was acquainted with a luring prefect at the time, so he went to visit him. However, that prefect demanded a huge bribe, so he had no choice but to borrow from the underlord's debt from the Blackbone sect. However, all that returned was the cold corpse of my older brother. The old man choked up as he recounted the painful memory of his family wailing before the bruised body of his brother. The desperate father held his son close, in utter agony. From what the old man heard, it was the prefect himself who directly ordered his older brother's execution, turning the tragedy into an unquenchable hatred. The protagonist listened intently, his expression calm and unreadable. And then, the old man's face contorted with extreme indignation and grief. The prefect flew into a rage. Unable to punish my father directly, he placed the blame on my brother, the one designated to inherit the family business. After that day, my father went to the government office every day to protest. He continued to recall the horrific scene of his father being brutally beaten by the officials. Despite the torture, he held his head high and questioned if they still feared heaven and retribution. But the officials just laughed as he fell to the ground, openly threatening him, showing their complete disregard for the law and their readiness to suppress anyone who dared to oppose them. The prefect fabricated the truth, pinning on him the crime of daring to tarnish the honor of a court official, to ensure that my father, a man who had spent his entire life carving masks, would never be able to craft another one again. They smashed his hands. From that day on, my father never stepped out of his workshop again. It wasn't until he closed his eyes for the last time that I saw his face again. The protagonist spoke up. After telling me everything that happened, do you still not understand the meaning behind this mask? The old man dropped to his knees, slamming his forehead onto the floor. Please enlighten me, my lord, because even I cannot comprehend my own father's final work. He carefully observed the rough chisel marks. It's only natural that this mask has such a crude and clumsy appearance. That old craftsman had gone mad. His hair was disheveled, and drool ran down his mouth, and he had starved for a long time. To replace his lost hands, he carved the mask with his own toes. The clumsy knife strokes had left both his feet drenched in fresh blood. But he did not stop. The only thing keeping this dying man in the mortal realm was his hatred for the state of the world and a rage steeped in sorrow. The moment the mask was completed was also the moment he breathed his last, and thus, a cursed demonic artifact was born. His resentful spirit could not pass on from this world, which is why it led me to find this place. Here, you all more tightly gripped the curse-laden mask in the dimly lit room of his imagination. Can this family only find peace after they have turned to dust? As for why this old craftsman created a mask with no holes for the eyes, I think I understand a little now. It's not that he couldn't carve the eye holes. It's that he simply chose not to. You all woe slowly pressed the curse-laden mask to his face with a chilling laugh that sent shivers down one's spine. Because this world is already too filthy to open one's eyes and look at. Dark. Quiet Tally in the warring was shrouded in the hazy mist of early morning. An elderly tattoo artist was meticulously inking a skull onto a man. Another skull. It seems you've killed someone again. What a wretched bastard. One is done. Do you like it? If you're okay with it, I'll continue. The man replied. No? Stop there and get lost for a while. Several assassins in black robes leapt from the shattered rooftops, charging straight for the seated man. The man calmly smiled, a bloodthirsty grin on his face. Kake, haka. I've been waiting for this. The man moved with incredible speed, delivering a brutal punch straight to the attacker's face. The assassin screamed as the impact shattered his jaw. Another assassin lunged forward in a flash with a drawn sword. The man tripped the attacker, slamming him hard onto the wooden floor with a thud. Next, a blazing aura of spiritual energy erupted around him as he stood arrogantly. He unleashed a brilliant, fatal strike towards the last assassin hovering in the air. The entire building collapsed into a pile of ruins. Even if you hide your presence and suppress your killing intent, you can't hide the sharpness of the sword in your hand. This is the difference between a martial artist and worthless insects like you. Do you understand now? Kake. Hey, old man, I'll need for more skull shattered. Another man resembling him walked in. Well, you've achieved another great feat. Second brother. The man laughed. He said, Oh, you've arrived. Big brother, I had a little fun on my own while you were away. The older brother nodded in approval. Well done. By the way, I just heard some strange things from the subordinates down below. The younger brother looked up, with some curiosity. What is it? The older brother recounted the situation. Do you remember the bastard we took the identity token from last time? I heard his shop is still doing business as if nothing ever happened. The younger brother doubted the logic of the situation. Isn't it still being run by that guy himself? The older brother shook his head grimly. No. The subordinates said they accidentally killed his entire family. And the one managing the place looks like some fair-skinned scholar. He shot to his feet, his muscles bulging with rage. What kind of bastard dares to do business in a shop that Boss Jincho confiscated? A moment later, the two colossal brutes strode confidently down the wide streets. The older brother stopped. We're here, little brother. The younger brother asked. Is that the scholar big brother was talking about? The older brother confirmed. Yes. This is the first time I've seen him too. But he looks even younger than I thought. Could he be that old man's disciple? The younger brother smirked confidently. We can just ask him directly. Can't we? Hey, where did that mask maker run off to? The protagonist slowly looked up. His entire face obscured by a white mask. The younger brother jolted, immediately distracted by the strange aura emanating from the cheap wooden mask. The younger brother leaned over. Didn't you hear your seniors asking you a question? A thick, suffocating dark energy began to swirl ominously around Yuan's mask face. Do you happen to know the face of the Bodhisattva Guardian? He quietly stood up from his chair, walking away nonchalantly, leaving the two thugs to their own devices. Ha! Should we beat him to a pulp to make him talk? He suddenly stopped, noticing the rows of intricately carved masks displayed neatly on the wall. The subordinates clearly reported that they had smashed the shop to bits and taken everything of value. But it's completely intact. Is this some kind of black magic? The older brother said he wasn't sure, then walked on. Did that brat go this way? He opened the door, and a thick, heavy air emanated from within. He then stammered in disbelief. What is this? The older brother gasped in utter terror as countless demonic hands reached out from the swirling, deep purple mist, dragging him forcefully into the room. Screaming his brother's name, the man's leg was grabbed by another hand. They were dragged through the floorboards into the void. He desperately clawed his fingers on the ground, screaming to save his life. No, save me. The younger brother reached out his hand in a desperate, frantic attempt, completely powerless to stop the nightmare unfolding before his eyes. A chorus of glowing, macabre smiles appeared within the thick demonic mist, reveling in their new offering. Maniacal laughter echoed, filling the room as the grotesque entities slammed the doors shut behind them. The protagonist sat peacefully on a rock in a quiet forest. He was carefully carving a block of wood. I just can't picture it. Merely imitating the outward appearance isn't enough. What did the Buddha I once knew truly look like? It's done. He carefully placed the Guanyin statue on a simple stone altar. Now, may you rest in peace, the Black Bone Sect and Jinju. Go ahead and mock and despise me as you please, because that will be the only resistance you can muster. As for the influence of the bedridden old master, many believe it has come to an end. It has reached the point where rumors of him being poisoned have begun to resurface. Grace smiled in response while holding a teacup. Those are all baseless rumors, and this is certainly not what you wanted to discuss in our reunion after 10 years, is it? Marina chuckled. It seems you still haven't won the young master's trust. Grace skillfully hid her rude thoughts while listening to the provocation. That's just a blatant provocation. But it's clear her goal is to dig up the internal secrets of the Luring Sword Pavilion at all costs. She spoke. I'm not naive enough to fall for your provocations. This has nothing to do with gaining his trust, does it? The older sister confirmed. You're right. The reason the Luring Sword Pavilion, known as the #1 clan under heaven, has fallen into such chaos is entirely the young master's fault. That is what we are discussing. Grace added with a hint of defensiveness. After all, the young master is just the young master. He is not the clan head who can fully act on behalf of the clan head. Therefore, blaming my master for everything is. When I heard the news yesterday that you had transferred to serve the young master at the Pavilion of Enlightenment, I was utterly astonished. Grace's eyes narrowed into a sharp glare as she quickly deduced. If she mentions yesterday, it means that, like the confidants of the other young masters, she has also accessed information about me. Marina leisurely held a long pipe. I can't understand what you were thinking, entrusting yourself to the young master. And I'm sure you would never reveal it to me. However, of all people, why did it have to be that swordless heir? What could you possibly? Grace cut her off sharply. her golden eyes burning with an unshakable fire of loyalty. Do not mention that title. Marina paused, genuinely surprised by the intense reaction. My apologies. As someone in the intelligence trade, I at least know that young master is no ordinary person. However, it has been 10 years since the old master entered seclusion. The young master's rivals have consolidated a huge amount of power during that time. What can the young master do now? Grace replied with confidence in her heart. When the time comes, you will understand. Grace's brilliant golden eyes widened in astonishment. The wooden door was brutally kicked open. A large crowd of burly men immediately surrounded the two women in the middle of the room. Capture the master of the Mystic Moon Pavilion. Marina. Alive. She glared at the intruders, instantly recognizing their origins. The Black Bone Sect? She frantically analyzed the completely illogical ambush. The Black Bone Sect? Why would they dare to do this? Attacking a neutral intelligence organization protected by various powers in broad daylight is tantamount to suicide. A scarred brute with numerous scars lunged aggressively towards Marina with a wicked smile. Well, this one is even more beautiful than the rumors say. Come along quietly, master of the Mystic Moon Pavilion. Meanwhile, on the bustling streets of Luore, the scarred man finally found the protagonist, panting and sweating profusely. Oh, for heaven's sake, young master, where on earth did you go? The protagonist turned his head, looking extremely annoyed by the interruption. What is this? Are you shouting at me? The guard frantically waved his hands in denial. No, sir, it's not like that. Your mater stunt is wandering around out there alone. So this subordinate was very worried. The protagonist flashed a sly smile. Her? In danger? Impossible. The guard stared at him in confusion. What are you talking about? Calmly continued to eat his meat skewer with a very relaxed expression. Back in the chaotic pavilion, Grace quickly grabbed the heavy pipe from the table. Big sister, I'm borrowing this. The metal pipe landed a critical blow on the bald man, causing him to tumble to the wooden floor with a thud. The remaining thugs looked completely stunned by the swift counterattack. Grace gripped the pipe as if drawing a sword. Ready for a bloody battle. Another man smirked sinister lie, completely underestimating her. Hey, little lady, you seem to be of high status, but trying to hurt others when you're not even a martial artist is not a good idea. Marina watched anxiously. He's right. No matter how hard she trains, there will always be a limit if she's not a martial artist. What are you trying to do? How long do we need to hold out? Marina replied. 15 minutes at most. That's more than enough time for the defensive measures I've prepared to be activated. I thug angrily rushed forward. You won't listen, will you? Then I'm done with worries. Girl, you brought this upon yourself. He threw a powerful punch towards her face. Grace's golden eyes lit up. She dodged to the side with masterful grace, moving with extraordinary precision. I can feel it. The opponent's rhythm, their every movement, and absolutely everything else. The attacking thug was stunned. Grace mercilessly plunged the metal pipe into the man's vulnerable abdomen. The thug doubled over, coughing in extreme pain. Another one came from behind. She's no ordinary woman. Don't hold back. Now she was surrounded by two men attacking at once. But Grace easily dodged and countered with ease. Without any martial arts foundation, she can hold her own against the well-trained masters of the Blackbone sect. The frustrated thug desperately drew his short sword. You bitch. It seems you need to see some blood to come to your senses. He leapt forward, aiming the tip of his sword at her. Marina screamed for her to be careful, but the words seemed unnecessary as she easily gave him a beating, landing continuous blows to his face. Finally, she finished with a light push, sending him to the ground. Marina breathed a huge sigh of relief. Grace, did you learn some sword techniques at the Lowering Sword Pavilion? Her eyes remained fixed on the remaining enemies. No, I learned it by watching over their shoulders. Has it been 15 minutes yet? Her sister immediately replied. Just a little longer. Then she thought in bewilderment. But learning by watching. Over their shoulders? What does that even mean? A voice from outside the door slowly entered. What's going on? Grace gasped. Wait, that voice is. Her eyes went wide as she saw the uninvited guests. A stunningly beautiful blonde woman arrogantly entered the room with a fearsome subordinate in tow. a sly smile on her lips. How pitiful. And we raise these fools, calling them masters. The hospitality here seems rather poor. A moment later, the whole group woke up as she commanded. You pathetic fools. All of you, get out. Marina glared at the intruder. Jinju, what is the meaning of this? You should know that doing things like this will have consequences. She maintained an extremely arrogant demeanor. This is not the way to treat a guest. You haven't even offered me a cup of tea, Marina retorted, with a cold expression. I guess? You must be joking. Jinju smirked contemptuously, her eyes narrowing with malice. You always act so smart, but your mind must have gotten dull. If I were an enemy and not a guest, do you think you would still be standing there unharmed? The man behind her chuckled as she snapped her fingers, signaling him to attack. Instantly, she stood completely still as a sharp blade sliced across her cheek, leaving a thin trail of blood. Jinju observed her reaction with genuine amusement. As expected, you didn't even blink. I really wish my subordinates had half your courage. Lately, my people have been continuously ambushed everywhere. Her sister said that it was the price to pay for expanding their power too quickly. But then she continued, but I have a very strong feeling that you are the one behind these attacks. Marina asked, you caused all this chaos based on just a feeling? Jinju laughed darkly. Look here, master of the Mystic Moon Pavilion. Aren't you wondering how I managed to appear at this exact moment? At the very moment when your defenses were at their weakest. That means I finally have a high-level and authentic source of intelligence in my hands. It also means that from now on, I don't need to do business with half-baked amateur organizations like yours anymore. Marina sat calmly, unfazed by the insults. So what? Did that authentic intelligence source of yours say that I was the one behind this? Jinju wore a triumphant smile as she revealed her hand. No, they're not just an intelligence source. She was sweating profusely. The bronze command token of the Sword Pavilion? Jinju looked down at the two stunned sisters with an air of arrogance. So you recognize this? Who are you? Grace panicked. She ignored her. Well, that doesn't really matter. Now do you understand why I can cause all this trouble based on just a feeling without having to worry about any consequences? The protagonist cheerfully called out from outside the pavilion. Hey, inside there. Would you mind letting me have a look at that thing for a moment? His appearance stunned the trio. The younger sister gasped. Young master? He panted behind him. Young master. Luckily, this subordinate wasn't too late. Why did you have to climb the wall when there's a perfectly good main gate right there? Yuan Wo smiled. Because it looks cooler. The guard muttered under his breath with an annoyed expression. Cooler my ass. The protagonist stared at him. What? You want me to hand this over? The man wearing the red prayer beads growled. Who the hell are you? The protagonist nonchalantly pointed to his attendant. You see this uniform and you don't recognize it? He panicked. Yuan smirked. Be careful. In that uniform, he may look like an ordinary guard, but he is actually a top-tier master. The bald man burst out laughing mockingly. Did you guys hear that? He said he's a master. If that guy is a master, then I'm the #1 master under heaven. The protagonist ignored their jeers and casually gave an order. This won't do. Go up there and get it for me. The guard stepped forward, his eyes glowing with an intense red light as a terrifying pressure filled the room. The thugs all flinched, completely overwhelmed by the sudden killing intent. What is this? Visor. The guard took a second step forward, preparing to draw his weapon as the hem of his black robe fluttered violently. Get back. On the third step, the guard exploded with burst speed. Lunging forward, she silently observed what was happening in front of her. Suddenly, the guard appeared behind her, easily taking the item. He examined it. Let's see. Grace watched him intently from behind. Young master, is that the real thing? The protagonist confirmed with a nod. Exactly. It's real. This bronze command token of the Sword Pavilion is a vow to repay all debts of gratitude to our benefactors, wherever and whenever. Whenever a benefactor holding this token is in danger, the people of the Sword Pavilion will immediately rush to their side. No matter where they are, we will stand shoulder to shoulder, draw our swords with them, ready to face even death. Marina understood the true weight of that ancient artifact. It is a symbol of absolute trust. The protagonist carelessly tossed the priceless comm and token back to the blonde woman. Although nowadays, it has been degraded into a mere business token distributed to trading partners. Jinju caught the command token. As you said, it may be just a simple token, but at the same time, it is also a commitment that guarantees safety from the merciless blades of the sword pavilion. Isn't that right? Yu unclosed his eyes, acknowledging a regrettable truth. That is also true. If we were to ignore the bronze command token of the sword pavilion and act on our own accord, it would destroy the reputation that the sword pavilion has painstakingly built over the years. Jinju pieced together the clues about his true identity. Then you must be the infamous, swordless heir. The protagonist opened his eyes. That's right. I am Yuan Wo. Jinju covered her mouth. Oh, you scared me. I almost lost my composure. I heard you were busy with cultivating immortality and wasting your life away. So what wind blew you here? I guess you got tired of destroying the luring sword pavilion from the inside. The sister slammed her pipe on the table, unable to tolerate the insolence any longer. Jinju, you better watch your mouth. No matter what the world says, he is still a member of the sword pavilion. Jinju completely ignored the threat. Of the sword pavilion? Hey, master of the mystic moon pavilion. Does this coddle brat look like a member of the luring sword pavilion to you? You still don't get it? The backer I secured is a golden thread that a useless young master like him couldn't even dream of comparing to. The right-hand man of the second young master. A true successor of the clan. Met with me today? So you're the troublesome woman he just mentioned. What a ridiculous coincidence. I just heard your name this morning, and now you're standing right here. Tell me, why did you throw away a golden opportunity to become the second young master's concubine? To follow this swordless heir? Wouldn't it be better to be the second young master's plaything? What do you expect when you entrust yourself to a good-for-nothing like him? Grace spoke up to defend her master with unwavering loyalty. Do not insult my young master. He is a noble person whom your kind is not even worthy of mentioning. Jinju sneered. A noble person? Oh, right. He's so very noble. Throwing away all the privileges he was born with. Shirking his duties even when criticized by his own family. Anyway, he's still much nobler than a homeless street wanderer. Grace sank into thought. The swordless heir. In this vast city of Luoring. And even in the entire Henan province. That title is just a joke. While his father, the old master, had to exhaust his last ounce of strength on his sickbed to support the clan. He disappeared without a trace. Truly an unfilial son, a coward, and a fool. Jinju was immensely pleased with our absolute victory. Cat got your tongue. If you have anything else to say, just say it. I'm listening. Grace trembled slightly, completely overwhelmed by a wave of despair. This is so frustrating and humiliating. The master I chose to serve. He's not like that. But right now, no matter what I say, it won't change anything. This is the first time. I've never felt so helpless and weak. A sudden wave of dizziness is washing over me. Yuan Luo suddenly issued a cold command. Stop. Why don't you stop right there? She is my one and only exclusive mayor start. If you continue to push her, even I will get angry. Jinju sneered and turned her back on the entire group. Anyway, this is getting boring. Especially since an uninvited guest showed up. Master of the Mystic Moon Pavilion. I intended to give you a stern warning today. The next time I come back, that pathetic young master won't be able to save you. Marina silently watched the woman's retreating back with a heavy, worried expression. Jinju casually waved as she left. Take care. See you another time. Grace collapsed to the floor. Young master, I'm sorry. Marina rushed over in a panic, catching her unconscious younger sister. Grace, wake up. Grace was completely limp, collapsed in her sister's arms. A moment later, after the younger sister had been put to bed, to rest, the guard clenched his fists, thinking, just a few brats dare to tarnish the reputation of the Luoring Sword Pavilion. Young master, if only you had the strength worthy of your status, I could have reclaimed the bronze command token of the Sword Pavilion, punished them for daring to insult our clan, and chopped them into 100 pieces. The guard slowly bowed his head and said, This subordinate begs for punishment. For my crime. Yuan Mo replied calmly. What is there to apologize for? You have done your duty well. The guard hesitated, but my duty is to protect you. He continued. It is not necessary to sacrifice yourself for someone to whom you have not dedicated your sword. He bowed his head silently. For that, this subordinate begs for forgiveness. He handed a sealed letter to the man. Take this. It is the official order allowing you to return after completing your temporary escort duty under me. Take it. Return. The guard bowed respectfully and took the letter. This subordinate, at present. But I have never felt so pathetic as this. A moment later, a respectful female voice called from the other side of the sliding door. Young master, I request permission to enter. Grace? Is that you? Yuan Wo sat quietly by the bed, gently taking her pulse. What do you mean? Is she okay? Didn't you hear she's just sleeping? Marina frowned. Suspicious. I heard. But then why is taking her pulse taking so much time? The protagonist remained completely silent, his expression unreadable. Yuan Wo suddenly shot a sharp gaze at her. I assume you brought the information on the Black Bone sect. Marina quickly took it out. Before we discuss that, perhaps you should tell me if there's anything unusual with my sister. First, he looked up with a calm, serious demeanor. Actually, after taking her pulse, I discovered that Grace is suffering from a very serious illness. Marina jumped. What illness? The protagonist took the stack of documents from her hand. I told you earlier. She's sleeping because she's exhausted. Exhaustion is a very serious illness. Even young people can die suddenly from it without any warning signs. Marina glared at him with extreme annoyance as a green vein popped on her forehead. So you mean, the girl is fine? Why are you demanding information on the Black Bone sect? He looked at the papers and replied. Looking at the way you gathered this information, it seems you're planning something very dangerous too. Target the Black Bone sect. Marina snapped directly. I don't see how that's any of your business. Young master. Yuan Wo glared back with a cold, sharp pressure. Let's drop it. Marina stood her ground fearlessly, refusing to back down. I am not your subordinate, so I have no obligation to obey you. Ignoring her, the protagonist added, that bronze command token of the Sword Pavilion is real. Jinju's connection is real. The power of the Luoring Sword Pavilion's intelligence network. You must be more aware of it than anyone, because we operate in the same field. Marina's voice was filled with dissatisfaction. If you know all this, how could you just stand by and watch it all happen? You seem very serious. Let's go outside to talk. Let the patient rest. Outside in the quiet courtyard, Marina loudly questioned, who is the most powerful merchant clan in the warring? No. In the entire world? And which clan is the most powerful martial arts clan in the world? It's the Luoring Sword Pavilion. And yet, the Luoring Sword Pavilion gives its bronze command token to a dark gang like the Black Bone sect, while the people of Luoring cry out in misery and starve to death. What has the Luoring Sword Pavilion done? While thugs like the Black Bone sect suck the blood of the people, and countless other gangs like them spring up like mushrooms, the protagonist calmly added, the Sword Pavilion just stands by and watches. No, it's more like the Sword Pavilion is using them. She shouted, if you know all this, then what have you been doing all this time? To be honest, although the words Jinju said to you were harsh, I feel she wasn't wrong. I know you once showed extraordinary talent in the past, but now you're just pretending to be a hermit, using the seclusion order as an excuse. So don't order me around while I'm risking my life to do something practical. And don't provoke Jinju any further. His expression softened slightly as she told a tragic story. Once upon a time, there were two sisters who loved each other very much. The older sister was always full of righteousness. She could not forgive the evil people who were destroying her village. She and her comrades risked everything to attack, but they failed, and they were all slaughtered. When she heard that her older sister was dead, the talented younger sister went mad with grief. She attacked those who had killed her sister. She struck down many, but the enemy was too strong. In the end, she became an enemy of the people and was ruthlessly hunted down. This story is of the past, but it will also be like in the future. She asked, sweating, what are you talking about? He continued, both their heroic deeds and their noble intentions were not remembered by anyone. In the distorted history, they were only remembered as traitors and enemies of the people. The people only cursed and slandered the two sisters. Marina looked at him with a bewildered expression. I am a fool. Great. Young master? I don't understand what you were trying to say at all. The protagonist turned his back to her, his gaze fixed on the dark night. It means that the good fall in vain, and the weak fail. That is the truth. Are you determined to do what you believe is right, even if it requires countless sacrifices? Even if innocent people must die for your actions? Of course not. To change the course of the great river of history, blood must be shed. But those who are truly good cannot bear to see the innocent die just to bend that current. Therefore, even if their names are tarnished by shameful words, they still decide to sacrifice only themselves, even if in the end, nothing changes. In my youth, I dreamed of changing the world, but then I realized it was just a foolish dream. Since then, the only wish in my life has been to seek tranquility in this humble place. But because of the status I have carried since birth, finding that tranquility is impossible. So I sought peace. I believe that if I gave up all my desires again and again, I could be as free as the wind through a net. In the end, I failed to change the fate that I carry. But your fate and your sister's fate have not yet been decided. I will watch over your fates. I will see if your fates intersect with mine, or if they will overlap. My path is the demonic path of the 9 underworlds, a path flowing with corpses and a sea of blood in a vortex of inhumanity. I pray that we never meet on that path. The oppressive dark entity gradually dissolved into the cold night mist. Marina jolted awake, panting heavily, undrenched in cold sweat. What just happened? Young master, who are you? Really? The scene shifts to a shabby wooden house in the slums of the Warren. Beneath any magnificent and luxurious city, there always exists a darkness as deep as its splendor. The slums of Luoring teem with those who have lost their humanity, morals, and compassion. Naturally, they have been molded into the brutal thugs of the Blackbone sect. At a branch of the Blackbone sect, a muscular, bald thug with skull tattoos sat leisurely. Just a few more jobs, and I'll get a promotion. Then I'll have my own subordinates. The thug was chuckling to himself when a voice suddenly spoke up. Hey! The protagonist stepped out from the shadows as he put on a mask. Is this a branch of the Blackbone sect? The man shot to his feet with a look of utter contempt. Hey, kid, we don't hire skinny weaklings like you. Scram while I'm still being nice. Yuan stared back silently, his masked face completely unreadable. I never asked to be hired. The man was in a good mood. All right, I'm in the mood today, so I'll test you myself. If you can withstand 2 of my moves without dying, I'll guarantee you can join. A dark, terrifying purple demonic energy exploded violently around the protagonist's head. I told you, I'm not here to join. What a foolish creature. The man threw a furious punch. You brat. Then, what are you here for? Yuan gracefully dodged the massive punch, easily weaving through the man's defenses with superhuman speed. He instantly appeared behind him. Since you're the gatekeeper, I'll be merciful and let you know. The protagonist ruthlessly grabbed the back of the man's bald head with a vice-like grip. I've come to devour all of you. The thug let out a terrified cry, completely paralyzed. As the immense pressure crushed him, he lifted the man high and concluded, Now, shall we begin this feast? The man struggled desperately, completely overwhelmed by the suffocating aura. What do you mean? The protagonist dramatically threw his head out, commanding the shadows to rise. Now, sing for me. When it comes to singing, the first and most important step, of course, is to take a breath, and the rhythm must start from right here. You've completely mastered the first step. I will crush every bone in your body. Kakha. Next, the protagonist brutally flung the crushed thug into the night sky. The bald man let out a final, desperate scream as countless demonic spikes mercilessly pierced through his hovering body. Yuan watched the scene with cold indifference. You didn't get a chance to learn the second step. Kakha. Has this unfinished mask finally become a complete monster? The scene probably not. A moment later, the scene shifted to several panicked thugs rushing out of the building upon hearing the noise and loud crash, drawing their weapons in alarm. What the hell? Who's there? He turned to face them, his demonic mask now revealing a terrifying, fanged smile. Well, hello there. The thugs towered their faces pale and bloodless as they witnessed the monster before them. You! Who are you? How dare you cause trouble at a branch of the Blackbone sect? The protagonist's single purple eye burned with bloodthirsty excitement. You don't need to know who I am. Let's just enjoy this feast together. The aggressive thugs leapt into the air, charging towards him in unison with their unsheathed sabers. You madman! A muscular thug brought down his great saber with all his might. You're looking for death. He caught the blade with his bare hand, instantly creating a massive shockwave of energy. With a flick, his hand set the man's head flying in a fountain of blood. The remaining men desperately charged forward. This crazy bastard. Kill him. Yuan Wo's demonic mask glowed dearly as he unleashed a wave of demonic energy. Ha 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 ha. A feast isn't complete without a dance. Struggle all you like. He pushed his hand forward, manipulating the power of the absolute abyss. Countless dark tentacles shot up from the ground, instantly devouring the charging men. The thugs screamed in panic and agony as the grotesque spikes pierced through their bodies without mercy. The protagonist stood tall and laughed. Kakaha. This is a perfect banquet, filled with songs, dances, and even food. Everyone present was finished in just a single blow from him. The noisy night grew silent as the slaughtered bodies fell, crashing onto the ground. Desolate ground. Yuan Wo stood completely unharmed amidst the mountain of corpses, a thick black mist swirling around his white robe. Is it over already? What a pity. My appetite has only just begun to stir. I suppose I'll have to satisfy my void-like hunger with what's left. He scrutinized the writhing prey with a hungry gaze. The man cried out in terror. Please, spare me. The protagonist's grotesque smile stretched to an unnatural degree, completely devoid of any humanity. Which part of your body will help me feel full? Suddenly, a sharp, brilliant blade shot towards him through the air. Yuan Wo's smile vanished, his purple eye narrowing sharply as he quickly retreated to dodge the fatal blow. A martial arts master landed in the courtyard, brandishing a sword glowing with a blue light and a fierce skilling intent. You. What in the world are you? You monster. I'll take over from here. He unleashed another series of sword key slashes that flew wildly around. He easily blocked the attacks. Relentless assault. His demonic energy clashed with the master's blade as he landed, causing the ground to crack. The dark night sky remained completely unfazed, glaring down at the master who stood ready with his sword. Oh, a real martial artist has finally appeared. Huh? The martial artist stood firm under the night sky, gripping his sword tightly as he looked at the demonic figure. Is it a monster? He shot forward towards the full moon slash. Yuan Wo easily blocked the series of flashing blue strikes with after images, the terrifying mask radiating pure dark energy as he laughed maniacally. A violent, deadly aura erupted from the protagonist's body, mocking the desperate swordsman. Is this all you, bastard? He raised his hand, condensing shadowy tentacles, as sharp as razors. The martial artist was ensnared by the dark energy. Attacked, crying out in pain. Oh, the martial artist fell helplessly, completely finished. Meanwhile, deep within the underground secret chamber of the branch of the Blackbone sect, the protagonist slowly walked past the scattered corpses. A shirtless, aggressive thug lunged out from the darkness, slashing wildly, but he still dodged. How dare you cause chaos here? Die! Yuan Wo immediately counterattacked. He crushed the attacker with a destructive wave of dark power. He was sent flying, breaking down the door. What the hell? He scrambled backward in terror to get away from the intruder. Stay away from me. Yuan Wo stomped, his foot down, pinning the shirtless man to the ground. The man thrashed wildly, screaming as his leg was brutally crushed. No. AGH. My leg. He observed the horrific scene around him, completely enveloped in a suffocating deathly aura. This place looks no different from a slaughterhouse. Something has been boiling in that giant cauldron for a long time, and the heinous, violent crimes are piled on top of each other, with the pungent smell of fresh blood still lingering in the air. And among the soulless corpses hanging from the ceiling, lives that never had a chance to be born have withered away. This world has truly gone mad. And you think what you're doing here is normal? The man yelled back, completely blinded by twisted greed. That's right, you fool. This is just business. Why do we have to do business? It's all to make a living. Before he could continue, the protagonist grabbed his head, slamming it into the ground with pure physical strength. The man let out a final, agonizing scream as he was completely obliterated. I really can't understand. When I kill, it's called madness. Yet when they butcher and sell people, they call it business. Am I the one who's mad? Or is it this world that's mad? In the city, the lavish architecture of Jinju's lair lay silent under the night sky, intended to leave the pavilion. Does that mean that no one knew his plan from the beginning? Moreover, the young master I met today is nothing like the swordless heir from the rumors. He was strangely confident, even with a master escorting him, to remain so calm in a place filled with vicious thugs. Is the young master hiding some secret that? I don't know. No, I must be overthinking things. She ordered a nearby underling to hurry up, which made him anxiously bow his head in obedience. The sister said, "The water is getting cold. Hurry up." Two burly men dragged a struggling, terrified man. Please spare me." The man angrily yelled at the crying victim. "Shut up." Jinju glanced back with a disappointed expression. The freshness seems a bit lacking. The man pushed the victim's head down. This subordinate will ensure a more thorough selection from now on. The victim cried helplessly, his face soaked in tears as he begged for mercy. Jinju issued a cruel command without a moment's hesitation. "Begin." The burly executioner obediently nodded, readying his weapon. The victim screamed in desperation as the blade began to descend. "No. Please, spare my life." The great saber slashed down brutally, creating a brilliant blur. Fresh blood gushed from the execution block, flowing straight into the steaming bathwater. Jinju cupped her hands to catch the hot blood, sighing with a twisted vanity. I've been getting more wrinkles lately. It's so worrying." Suddenly, a panicked messenger came running, stumbling towards the main hall. "Urgent report. One of our workshops has been attacked. It has been completely leveled." Jinju, now clad in a splendid blood-red robe, turned away from the large mirror in shock. "What? Who did it?" The guard replied respectfully. "We don't know the details. The survivors have all gone mad, and the rest died shortly after." Jinju clenched her fists. Who would be so bold as to? "But what did you say?" he replied nervously. They were babbling about seeing an evil spirit, a demon, or a monster. Hearing this, she frowned and recited the lines. "What? An evil spirit? A demon? A monster?" The guard added. They also mentioned seeing the white mask. Jinju's eyes widened as the detail struck her mind. A white mask? Her eyes blazed with a crimson, murderous light. The man continued. "Yes, but they died too quickly, so we couldn't get any solid information." Jinju analyzed with a cold gaze. "They must have provoked some master." The man broke into a slight sweat, recalling a past disaster. "Come to think of it, last year we clashed with a martial arts master and lost an entire branch. First of all, only a few people are gifted with the talent to control their aura, and among them, those who undergo formal martial arts training to become martial artists are even rarer. Furthermore, only a very small fraction of those martial artists can break through their limits to become top experts. Masters." She concluded about the brutal business risks they faced. "Working in this profession, I've realized one thing. We clash with those masters far too often." The man behind her agreed as she added, "Tell the subordinates to lay low for a while. If we just lie low, he'll get bored after his tantrum and leave. I wonder which bored bastard is throwing a fit this time. Honestly, that's why you shouldn't stuff kids' heads with garbage about becoming a righteous hero. They need to learn to blend and adapt to the laws of this world." He bowed respectfully. Yes. Eldest sister speaks with great reason." Another man rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "True. A demon. Huh?" Jinju snapped her head around, glaring at the muttering man. "What? Did you hear something?" The man hesitated. Well, General Manager, didn't the guards we hired for the casino go missing a few days ago?" The man beside him sighed wearily. "They vanished without a trace. But since those hired hands often run off, we just ignored it, right? The man with spiky hair was sweating bullets, trying to piece together the rumors. We did. But what? Jinju snapped furiously. Why is this guy hesitating so much? But what? The spiky-haired man quickly explained. No. It's just that I'm a regular at that casino, and I remembered a rumor I heard there. Jinju raised an eyebrow. A rumor? The spiky-haired man repeated the chilling whispers from the street. People say that many saw a ghost that night. Many even called it a demon. Of course, I don't believe in that stuff either. But so many people saw it that it's hard to ignore. Jinju dismissed the supernatural nonsense with extreme contempt. What the hell does that have to do with this? Just because some dying men babbled nonsense. You dare to repeat it to me? My apologies. She added. As business people, we should discuss more practical things. Things that are beneficial. Jinju suddenly froze. A cold sweat ran down her cheek as a terrifying thought flashed through her mind. Could it be? Surely there can't be another one like Master. Right? I've never seen anyone as strange as Master. The one who taught me that unknown martial art. Another panicked subordinate burst into the room, panting. Another branch has been wiped out. Her face paled slightly as she asked anxiously. Don't tell me that white-masked bastard did it again? He replied. Yes, that's right. They said a bastard wearing a white mask attacked. Again. But considering the speed at which our facilities are being taken down despite having Master stationed there, this white-masked person is definitely a Master. That's obvious. So, it's just as I thought at first. It's best to just ignore him. We can easily find replacements for those lowlifes. The man explained the harsh financial reality. Hiring high-level martial artists or masters of the dark path is too expensive. Costly. Jinju waved her hand dismissively. That's enough. Get out of my sight. And call a masseuse. I need to relax. The man bowed respectfully before leaving. Yes, eldest sister. I'll go call one right away. The panicked subordinate suddenly cried out again, interrupting her moment of peace. General Manager. Jinju snapped her head around, her eyes wide with rage. Don't tell me. Another one? The scene transitions to the bustling streets of Luoring under a clear blue sky. Have you heard? The southern branch of the Blackbone sect was razed to the ground in one night. The second person corrected him with a stunned expression. 5. I heard it was 7. The third person chimed in, taking the unbelievable rumor to a new level. No way. I heard it was 10. Actually, Uncle Wang said it was 15. And listen, here, not a single body was found at those branches. Forget bodies. They say there wasn't. Even a single drop of blood. Countless thugs vanished without a trace. Who could do such a thing? The magnificent and majestic architecture of the Luoring Sword Pavilion appeared. You dare bother me on this busy morning for such a trivial matter? Jinju stood nervously at the end. Does that mean we have no information at all? The old man's sharp eyes radiated a crushing pressure. When did I say that to you? Girl? The great Luoring Sword Pavilion lacking information? She jumped, trembling, cold sweat pouring down her pale face. My apologies. Sir, the old man issued a stern, heavy warning from his throne. Know your place. I fear you are deluding yourself. Do you really think I gave you the bronze command token of the Sword Pavilion just because of your father's influence? Girl? She trembled, denying the accusation. How could I dare to think such a thing? I have never had that thought. Not even for a moment. The old man glanced at the hourglass, seeing that time was up, extremely annoyed by her presence. I have wasted nearly 15 minutes because of you. Get out of my sight immediately. Jinju bowed, her head deeply once more, turning around with a grim face, her face contorted in a mixture of suppressed rage. The old man issued a final, deadly ultimatum as she prepared to leave. If you disappoint me even one more time, I will give the bronze command token of the Sword Pavilion to someone else. Jinju gritted her teeth, staring into the distance with a fearful look. The scene shifts to the quiet, traditional house of the Luoring Sword Pavilion's Imperial Observatory. Wake up, you old man. The sun is already at its peak. HAIR. At this rate, there's no way. We are facing a great disaster. The young official gripped the old man's shoulders, waking him up. What? What the hell is happening? The young official poured a cup of water and handed it to him. Calm down. This is an emergency. Last night while I was on duty, I think I saw something. The old man replied. You were on night duty alone again? Honestly, no one recognizes your efforts. So why bother trying so hard? The official ignored him, his expression turning extremely serious. It was a dark omen. The old man tried. A weary sigh. Dark omens are everywhere. The young official cut him off, speaking a truth that stunned the old man. This is a great calamity, I believe. Last night I saw the Star of Heavenly Slaughter. The art style of this series makes it hard to determine age. So for now, I'll assume the one in the green robe is younger. If it changes, I'll fix it later. The old man immediately shouted. Is it true? The legendary Star of Heavenly Slaughter has always left a bloody history in its wake. This is insane. If this is true, then this is a very serious matter. The young official frowned worriedly. Shouldn't we report this to our superiors? The old man just sneered, waving his hand dismissively. Report it. Who would believe us these days? Especially with the killer star in the sky. The official young man sighed. Then we should at least report this to the chief supervisor of our facility. He continued. That won't help much either, but we still have to do it. After all, he is the weakest person in power in the Sword Pavilion. Night fell on the desolate slum, fog blanketing the outskirts of Luwari. Hey, today, did you see anything? Another man quickly gestured for silence. Hey, don't bother the old man. Don't you see? His trembling hands. I can't see the sun anymore. The sky is as black as ink. The sun has been obscured. I can no longer see the light. A painful realization suddenly struck the blind old man's mind. This is what? The darkened sky. The darkened sky sovereign has appeared. The demonic scripture. Could it be that the demonic scripture has awakened, devouring even the darkness? Could it be that the ancient monster that once made heaven and earth tremble has finally appeared? The darkened sky sovereign has appeared. From the deepest depths of darkness, the one who judges, the wicked has descended. O you who are hungry, rejoice. On behalf of this indifferent heaven and earth, you will bring down the dark lightning. The darkened sky sovereign has descended. The surrounding people whispered nervously among themselves. The darkened sky sovereign? Could the old blind man be telling the truth? Impossible. The old blind man has finally gone truly mad. The old blind man turned his back to the crowd. The true master has arrived. Finally, if you meet a demon wearing a white mask, bow your head in reverence to him. If he questions you about your sins, answer without concealing anything, because he is the representative of heavenly punishment. The darkened sky sovereign. No great villain who has ever mocked the heavens can escape from him. 2 days later, at the Lowering Sword Pavilion, Marina, the master of the Mystic Moon Pavilion, was deep in thought while reviewing the shocking reports. I can't believe the Blackbone sect is on the verge of being wiped out in just 2 days. The most important clues are the demon in the white mask and the darkened sky sovereign. And what I saw then was definitely a white mask. She turned and spoke. What do you think about this? The guard asked. About what? Marina added. About the young master of the Sword Pavilion. I told you to keep an eye on him whenever you see him. This person's name is Kai, and he is also the escort. He understood his master's intention and asked casually. You mean that swordless heir? Marina immediately raised her voice. I told you not to use that name. Kai immediately admitted his mistake. He really felt that he was very different from the rumors. Marina issued a warning. Don't go around telling people you work for the Mystic Moon Pavilion. She closed her eyes. Oh, but he seems to be a very generous person. Or rather, he is very magnanimous. He had tried to pressure him with his aura and even showed a hint of killing intent, but he didn't react at all. Marina's eyes widened slightly in surprise. Is that so? Kai, what on earth were you thinking? Acting like that? Kai, wake up. The scene shifts to the kitchen area. Grace knelt by the stove, fanning the flames, and looked back as her sister approached. Are you talking about your young master? She replied. I really have nothing to say about this. Marina was stunned by Grace's defensive attitude. Come on. Last time I just said a few bad things about the young master and you got all defensive for him. Anyway, how has your health been lately? She said she was fine and told her sister it would be best for her to go see the young master herself. A moment later, She was sitting opposite him. He spoke. Don't show any killing intent today. It will ruin the taste of the tea. Kai stood sternly behind. You don't need to worry. That mission is over. You won. Wo smiled. Here, you should enjoy it right away. Marina broke into a slight sweat. Thank you, sir. But you don't need to serve a guard yourself. He took the teacup and slowly took a sip as if to savor it. Thank you for the tea, young master. It has a wonderful taste. You must be very knowledgeable about the tea ceremony. He then replied to her, You praise me too much. Kai took the opportunity to add, Not at all. I'm not one to say flowery words. Yuan. Wo burst out laughing. You are really amusing. If you ever want to change professions, just let me know. Kai respectfully raised his teacup and replied with a polite bow. If I ever lose my job, I will come find you. Judging from the mood of my direct superior, that day might not be far off. The protagonist immediately laughed out loud while Marina silently observed, thinking, for someone who is normally extremely picky about interacting with others to be so comfortable. He added, So, what wind is brought? A busy person like you to visit a good-for-nothing like me? Marina sat stiffly opposite him. Young master. Her arm trembled uncontrollably as she decided to ask the question. Are you the darkened sky sovereign? The protagonist pretended to be completely clueless. Who is the darkened sky sovereign? Marina refused to back down. According to the survivors who escaped from the Black Bones sex branch, I saved. He wore a white mask and was dressed in the white cotton robes of a scholar. The protagonist said that it must be someone doing a good deed, but she pressed on. You also own a set of clothes and a mask exactly like that. Yuan Wo smiled mysteriously. Are you planning to go through my belongings? TSK. Marina's face showed a desperate desire to confirm the truth behind the bloodshed. Why won't you tell me the truth? He calmly replied. Are you prepared? Marina stared intently at the young master from her seat, her eyes burning with a resolute determination. As I said before, I am fully prepared to face anything. He continued. Are you ready to witness countless innocent people die? She recalled their previous encounter with a solemn expression. Since that day, I have thought over and over about your words. Many times. I have reflected very deeply. Young master. Enough blood to bend the course of the great river of history. She finished with a final statement. Are you referring to a coup to change the dynasty? Young master? The protagonist comfortably unreiterated. I coup? Even? A cruel oppressor is just a lowly person. I have heard of King Wu of Zhu wiping out the tyrant King Zhu of Shang. But I have never heard of him committing the crime of assassinating a true king. She immediately asked, Is that the path you are talking about, young master? He spoke suggestively. An inhuman demonic path with mountains of corpses and seas of blood. That is the demonic path of the 9 underworlds. The protagonist then asked a question she couldn't answer. Do you really believe that is possible in this day and age? Marina looked down with a pensive expression. That is a question beyond my limited ability to answer. You are. Wo calmly analyzed the state of the world. Even if you gathered all the most brilliant minds from across this continent, they would say the same thing. Has the gap between the rich and the poor ever been greater since civilization began? And yet, it is strange that this world remains stable despite all that. Discussing revolution at times like these is completely meaningless. She answered decisively but coldly. I have thought about it. If blood must be shed to change the course of history, must it be the blood of the innocent? Those who have risen up in desperation? To die under the banner of a great cause? If not, then what if we simply slaughtered the same number, but of the wicked instead of the innocent? Yuan Wo spoke with conviction. Instead of shedding the blood of the innocent, what if we shed the blood of the wicked? Marina stared at him. Are you joking with me? The sacrifice of the innocent should not be taken literally. The protagonist stood up and continued. It's not meant to be taken literally. It's just a hypothesis. Just a thought experiment. She thought it was a child's dream and added. How can one easily distinguish between the good and the bad? And even if you could, what would the standard be? The law or morality? The protagonist stood in the sunlight streaming through the window, his voice echoing with absolute certainty. Those things change depending on the specific circumstances. She immediately interjected. Furthermore, executing all those you deem wicked is madness. No single individual has enough power to slaughter enough of the wicked to change history. And even if such a person existed, judging and punishing others according to one's own will would turn that person into a rampaging madman, an even more terrifying villain. Marita's eyes widened as a horrifying realization struck her mind. A death god wearing a white mask, the master of the dark sky, the representative of heavenly punishment, who brings down arc lightning on behalf of the indifferent heaven and earth. The darkened sky sovereign. Marita trembled in her seat, trying to calm her racing heart. The supreme being of the indifferent heaven and earth? Yuan Wo flashed a very satisfied smile. I'm not sure who came up with that name, but it is indeed a very cool name. I'm sure the darkened sky sovereign would very much approve. I'm simply curious to see if that childish wish will actually succeed. Is it really possible to shed the blood of the wicked in place of the innocent and make them pay for their sins? Isn't that a path that only demons from the 9 underworlds can walk? Marina stared blankly into space. That's strange. Marina abruptly stood up, bowing her head to hide her trembling form. Thank you for your time. I must take my leave now as I have duties to attend to. He casually replied with a polite farewell. I wish you success in your work. Marina suddenly turned back. Today, I will proceed directly to that demonic base with a few elite combat masters and our associates. We will be departing shortly. Yuan Wo continued. Isn't that very dangerous? Jinju currently holds the bronze command token of the Jin family. Even if they attack first, the Sword Pavilion won't care about any of the details. Marina glanced back with a confident, uncalculating look. We will not directly infiltrate the base. Someone else will take care of that. But we won't stand by and watch either. We will ensure that no survivors can escape the demonic base today. If the Sword Pavilion still insists on making trouble over this, then we will have no choice but to fight them. It's not like we're facing the entire Sword Pavilion. We just need to deal with the one who gave the bronze command token to Jinju. Right? The protagonist flashed a sharp smile, completely agreeing with her bold strategy. She left, calling back. We are prepared for that as well. He stood completely alone in the quiet study, observing the impending change of fate. Meanwhile, at the heavily guarded lair of Jinju, a brutal execution was taking place. How dare they run away from the Black Bone sect? You cowardly bastards. This is an order from eldest sister Jinju. Prepare yourselves for a glorious death. Inside the splendid pavilion, Jinju sat tensely at a large wooden table. I suppose father refused to help as well, right? The guard bowed his head respectfully. Yes, he refused. Jinju fell into thought. He would never waste his precious masters on an opponent whose strength is still an unknown quantity, especially when our relationship is just a farce. To Father Jinchul, his adopted daughters are just disposable toys. The man hesitated before delivering the final, fatal blow. Furthermore, Boss Jinchul left a message for eldest sister. She asked what it was and told him to say. The man struggled to utter the cruel words. Yes, sir. He said that after a while. Jinju glared with sharp, angry eyes, her patience completely exhausted. Jinju shouted loudly. What did he say? After smashing things. She patted heavily, her face contorted as she spoke. How many slaves are left in the demonic base right now? The man stammered nervously. Yes, eldest sister. As you know, we rarely trade at the demonic base, so there aren't many left. Jinju stared into the darkness. I was planning to avoid using that monstrous secret art that my monster master taught me until the very last moment. Damn it. Jinju made a reckless decision. Gather all the slaves and those who are infirm. Those with no combat ability who are in the basement. Bring them to me. I will perform the ritual I learned from my master. In the sunset light of Luoring, a black crow glided silently past. The sky was boundless as dark figures began to gather. In the dark alleys, a masked assassin whispered a report. From the shadows. Still no sign of anyone. Another replied. Then continue. To maintain a state of high alert, the assassins immediately took a ready stance. The one on the rooftop observed the situation and immediately signaled for those below to act. Receiving the message, he called out, Leader, Squad 15 reports they are in position. The leader slowly nodded. Roger that. Confirming Squad 15 is in position. Assassins in black silently darted across the rooftops like phantoms. One subordinate, breathing heavily, dropped to his knees before his leader to deliver a critical update. Pavilion Master, we have evacuated the civilians in the area and all the restaurants. All agents and their associates are in position and on standby. She stood majestically and gave the order. Everyone, hold your positions and remain on high alert. Once the situation begins, act according to the rules of engagement. He immediately obeyed and vanished in an instant. Marina gazed out over the vast city, the burden of command clear on her tense face. Kai stepped out from the shadows, observing his master's unusual silence. Are you feeling anxious? Marina sighed softly. Rather than anxious, I'd say my mood is a bit complicated. You heard everything from my conversation with the young master earlier, didn't you? Kai continued. I didn't hear a thing, especially not a word like cool or anything of that sort. I know nothing. So please, leave me out of it. Marina chuckled. Huh. Stop playing dumb and tell me. What do you think of him? The young master, Kai, stared into the void, contemplating the true nature of the young man. I believe he is a good person, although he is also a terrifying one. Marina asked immediately, even knowing he is the darkened sky sovereign. Kai nodded calmly. Yes, I don't have a clear reason. It's just a feeling. Master, I will simply follow wherever you go. Follow what your heart tells you. Marina gripped the wooden railing, the conflict in her heart resolved. Yes, I understand. Marina pondered the absolute madness of his grand ambition to continuously slaughter the wicked until this world changes. It's truly insane. However, Yuan, young master of the Luoring Sword Pavilion and the Darkened Sky Sovereign. Meanwhile, at the headquarters of the Black Bone sect, the atmosphere was incredibly tense as they spotted the assassins. Damn it, you bastards. Does every punk think they can pick a fight with us? What are you people doing? You scumbags. Attack them now. Charge. Catching the army completely off guard. Another thug stared blankly as a fatal blow descended in utter horror. The bald brute cried out in sudden agony as a deep gash split his muscular chest open. The battlefield instantly devolved into a brutal massacre, violent and bloody, as blades clashed and sparks flew. Alone, thug screamed desperately for help as he fell backward. Save me! The Black Bone sect retreated in disarray. Ah, damn it. This is bad. Hey, everyone, move to the sides. Clear a path for the ones in the back to advance. Now, the surviving thugs desperately parted ways. Yes, Big Brother. The front line quickly split. Men wielding long spears advanced menacingly. The assassins broke into a cold sweat as the deadly spear formation aimed straight for them. An agent, panting, rushed to the balcony to report the dire situation. Pavilion Master, the enemy has deployed their spearmen, and their numbers are constantly increasing. It seems they've even mobilized the forces assigned to protect the headquarters. Marina immediately issued a counter-offensive order. Deploy all reserve forces and prioritize the judgment of the field commanders. SPREADOUT. The assassin bowed respectfully before instantly diving into the fray. Understood. Marina quickly recognized the enemy's strange tactic. Deploying their headquarters guard left the base vulnerable, which meant they must have a group of hidden masters, a familiar ploy to deliver a decisive blow at the right moment. Kai asked, if we deploy all our reserve forces, will we be short on manpower? Is that all right? Marina replied with a confident smile. Don't worry. Reinforcements will arrive shortly. The Black Bone sect has made many enemies. Plenty of martial artists won't miss this opportunity. Kai stared blankly. What? But Jinju holds the command token of the Sword Pavilion. Would anyone be bold enough to attack without fear of the Luoring Sword Pavilion? Marina broke into a nervous sweat, looking away with an incredibly awkward smile. About that. Actually, I presumptuously promised to take full responsibility. So what? We have the Darkened Sky Sovereign on our side, don't we? If he's truly as formidable as the rumors say, we can certainly rely on him. A deafening explosion erupted violently from the courtyard below, instantly drowning out her voice. Marina was violently thrown by the shockwave. Completely. What's happening? Kai leapt to catch her as she fell, landing amidst the debris. Are you all right? Marina groaned weakly, struggling to regain consciousness. Kai's eyes narrowed. looking up at the hellish inferno. A chilling laugh suddenly echoed from within the roaring flames. Oh ho ho! Marina immediately recognized the twisted voice. You're Jin. Jinju slowly emerged from the fiery abyss, shrouded in a malevolent, blood-red aura. Marina gasped in horror. You're Jinju? Why has she become like this? She flashed a crazed smile. Pavilion Master of the Mystic Moon Pavilion. Perish right here. By my hand. Kai immediately leapt. He shielded his master, protecting her from the charging monster, urging her to find safety. Please, run? Marina reluctantly leapt back. Marina shouted. In despair, she retreated from the collapsing building. Kai, at all costs, you must survive. Young master. Marina's silent plea echoed with desperate hope amidst the ruins. Darkened Sky Sovereign, where are you? And what in the world are you doing? Kai drew his sword and blocked the path, directly challenging the monster. Stop right there. Jinju, your opponent is me. Jinju roared, ferociously, her eyes blazing with killing intent. Get out of my way, if you don't want to die. Kai held his sword in a firm defensive stance. I have my own pride. I won't fall so easily. Kai focused his mind, recalling the ancient teachings of martial artists. The wall. The old masters often say that in the process of every martial artist's growth, there comes a time when their progress slows, and eventually, they will encounter a wall. Furthermore, those who can overcome that wall will reach a new realm of power, as if they've become an entirely different person. This allows them to expand their foundation once more. Therefore, the world calls those powerful individuals who have surpassed that wall masters. He sweat nervously, fully aware of his own limitations. Moreover, the power that Jinju is displaying before me right now is not like mine, someone who has only reached the foot of the wall. It is clearly the power of a master who has already overcome it. Jinju raised her mutated, glowing red claw into the air. She slashed down with lightning speed, weaving a massive trail of red energy. He nimbly leapt backward, narrowly dodging the destructive attack. Jinju closed the distance in an instant, attacking Kai while he was still levelly Midra, his eyes widening in terror. Kai stared in sheer panic as the demonic arm extended and transformed into a giant flesh whip that lashed through the air with devastating force. Jinju sneered at her struggling opponent with a fang-filled, arrogant smile. I thought you were my opponent? You think that with that level of power, you could possibly face me? Countless massive, demonic hands descended in a brutal bombardment, relentlessly, without pause. Then, in a flash, Jinju suddenly appeared inches from his face, her eyes glowing red. You, small fry, had best get out of my way. An explosion engulfed the entire area in a blinding flash. Kai was thrown violently backward by the blast, slamming hard onto the ground, coughing up a pool of fresh blood. KH. Jinju slowly approached the defeated man. She looked down with a mix of surprise and sadistic pleasure. You took that hit and you're still not dead? You're pretty tough, aren't you? Kai gasped for breath, tried to stay conscious while assessing his severe injuries. I barely managed to avoid a fatal blow again. But, because I've been using my inner energy continuously, my reserves are depleting too quickly. I don't know how many more of Jinju's attacks I can withstand. I can't believe she's fighting bare-handed instead of using a weapon. What in the world happened to her body? Kai gripped his sword hilt, refusing to yield as he pointed it at her. Jinju's face twisted further as she glared down in annoyance. Oh? I already gave you a compliment, and yet you still refuse to back down? What a stubborn brat. He flinched, completely paralyzed by the suffocating pressure. Jinju unleashed a storm of crisscrossing red energy that tore the entire courtyard apart. Kai stared wide-eyed at the inescapable, deadly net of energy. This killing intent. Jinju condensed a thick blast of demonic energy. Then tried to block this. A violent, dark red beam shot forward, tearing up the ground. His heart pounded. I'm going to die. Suddenly, a young woman with pigtails dashed out, blocking the blast with her hands. Kai looked up at his unexpected savior in utter astonishment. What? Who is that? The young woman in a combat uniform smiled confidently, brushing the dust from her steaming armored gauntlet. She spoke up. Have you been waiting long? The reinforcements have. Before she could finish, She was struck by Jinju and coughed up fresh blood. Kai turned to look at the kneeling woman. Completely stunned. She flashed a vibrant, radiant smile despite the blood on her cheek. I'm fine. We are the reinforcements. An older martial artist swung his massive, glowing sword down. Young lady, be careful. This is a formidable opponent. I'm not sure if we can leave here alive. If we work together, maybe we can win. Kai voiced his concern about their lack of numbers. Just this many of us won't be enough. Aren't there any other reinforcements? The young woman replied with tears in her eyes. For now, this is everyone. The old man sighed resignedly, accepting the grim odds. I guess there's no other way. The trio now stood together, facing their single opponent. The dark red aura around Jinju crackled violently. She flashed a bloodthirsty smile, completely unfazed by the newly assembled group. Are you done chatting? Then come at me all at once. You insects! Cutting to another location. Marina had fled to her group of assassins amidst the raging battle. She ground her teeth in frustration. As she observed the chaotic battlefield, she immediately turned to ask, don't we have any more martial artists for reinforcements? Another assassin shook his head grimly. I'm afraid not. It's impossible at the moment. As she seethed, another voice yelled out, Squad 3's casualties are too high. We're retreating. Panicked assassins relayed news of the collapsing front line. Squad 17 is requesting backup. Squad 10 is pulling back. She was paralyzed by the overwhelming defeat. She clenched her trembling fist in disbelief. Why? This is absurd. The chaotic battlefield descended into a brutal bloodbath as blades clashed and sparked under the setting sun. A giant greatsword slashed down. An assassin used his sword to block it but trembled, thinking, their strength is monstrous. His opponent was wounded, but his eyes glowed with a terrifying red light. They don't even feel pain. Even when stabbed through the stomach, the assassin then delivered a lightning-fast kick. As the enemy was pushed back, the assassin launched a final slash to finish him. A spray of blood erupted across the dark battlefield. The assassin panted over the corpse of the man who had finally collapsed. But all around, the explosive battle raged on without end. Blood continued to spill. The assassin despaired. These monsters are running rampant everywhere. This is Hell on Earth. Back with Kai. The building was still smoldering. The old martial artist, one arm severed, lay motionless on the blood-soaked ground. Kai panted heavily. He took a defensive stance, protecting the severely injured young woman behind him. Jinju's chilling, mocking voice echoed from the swirling flames. Oh, my. Is this all you can do? I thought you would last a little longer. Enraged, Kai glared at his monstrous opponent while the young woman behind him tried to speak. Suddenly on the young woman's stomach, an ethereal blue light glowed. She immediately coughed up a mouthful of fresh blood, causing Kai to call out in concern. Are you okay? Jinju laughed maniacally from within the blazing fire. Watching the weak struggle is always so entertaining. Don't worry, I'll send your master down soon enough, so you won't be lonely. Don't hold it against me. Kai gritted his teeth, thinking back to the moment before, pushed into a corner by her overwhelming power. I told my master to run. There was nothing else I could do. I wonder if she escaped safely? Jinju unleashed her brutal, blood-red energy vortex. I suppose it's time to end this farce. Go on ahead and wait for your master. Fearlessly, Kai stared intently at the absolute wave of destruction rushing towards him, his thoughts still on his master. Marina seemed to sense something as well, and turned her head back towards the burning courtyard. Kai. The entire world suddenly inverted into a grotesque negative image as time seemed to freeze completely. What is this? What's happening? Has the world gone dark? It's so cold. The battlefield was completely swallowed by a suffocating darkness. Everyone felt the descent of the night. The burning pavilion was completely submerged in absolute darkness. Only faint white outlines remained. Marina looked up at the overwhelming phenomenon, completely stunned. And then, a white mask that mocked the entire world appeared. The cold, authoritative voice of a man echoed throughout the frozen space. Were you waiting for me? Marina trembled uncontrollably, recognizing the mythological entity standing before her. It is a death god with a white face, the darkened sky sovereign. Yuan Wo stood majestically amidst the swirling dark energy, his purple eye piercing through the abyss as the legend truly descended.